Louise Vidal's life always seemed empty and meaningless. Marriage into the imperial family was no salvation, but rather the beginning of a chain of even more difficult events, unforeseen at the time. After 5 years of marriage, the emperor, without hesitation, sent her to a remote palace, preferring the company of his mistress, and thus finally deprived Louise of her former position and respect. The girl worked tirelessly, exhausting herself, and ultimately her fate ended tragically, like that of the heroine of a sad story. From the outside, it might seem strange why we even remember all of this. However, the reason was simple. She was the unfortunate heroine. Louise still couldn't believe that what was happening was real and not a heavy, drawn-out dream. She couldn't shake the thought of why, out of the many possible fates, she had woken up in the darkest and most hopeless of them all. In a story that is impossible to read without tears, and where every event only intensifies the pain, the lady clearly realizes that her situation is a real disaster. Moreover, today was the day when Louise Vidal first dared to speak out to the emperor, speaking before him not as an exile but as an empress. Until that moment, she had been destined to exist in a secluded palace where no light penetrated, and to work until she was completely exhausted, with no hope of change. But she refuses to end her life in such a miserable way, especially since in her past life she did not even have personal relationships due to her constant busyness. In this life, Louise does not intend to exhaust herself with work again, especially if all the credit ultimately goes to His Majesty. She clearly understands that in front of her is the emperor of a huge empire named Yuri Klaus Owen, and next to him is a girl who has taken a special place at court. She informs Yuri that the Empress has apparently decided to visit him. This girl turns out to be Lady Lyra Blair. Louise remarks to herself how Lyra looks, recognizing her as truly beautiful, while the Emperor inquires about the reason for Louise's visit to the main palace. The main character clearly feels that he is not even trying to hide his displeasure with her appearance, and the same attitude can be read on the faces of those around him. Now Louise, who has not yet reached adulthood, does not possess any real power and cannot count on either the throne or an heir, especially since Lyra is soon to become the legal wife of the emperor. This will happen immediately after Louise's coming-of-age ceremony, that is, in 3 months, and if she does not want to end her life in eternal sleep from exhaustion, this is her only chance. The main character wonders if His Majesty remembers the promise he made to her earlier, because he said that he would fulfill one of her wishes for solving the economic problem. Whispers began to circulate in the hall, wondering whether the emperor had actually made such a promise, since this issue had been discussed at the council about 6 months ago. Louise understands that they could not forget this, since the currency crisis had long plagued the empire, and she managed to cope with it in a short time. Now she directly tells the emperor that she knew about his memory, and the man confirms that he promised to fulfill any wish if the problem was solved within 6 months. He asks if she has come only to demand that the promise be fulfilled, and the girl answers in the affirmative. After this, the emperor declares that he is ready to listen to her and asks what exactly the lady wants. Lyra begins to become noticeably nervous, and the main character realizes that everyone around her is expecting a completely predictable demand from her. Many are sure that Louise will want to get rid of the emperor's mistress, but they are mistaken, because she does not need either the empress's crown or his love. Instead, the girl suddenly asks to be overthrown, which leaves the man truly shocked and perplexed. The main character explains that she wishes to voluntarily abdicate the throne, to which the emperor questions her sanity. Louise makes it clear that she is fully aware of her words and reminds him of the need to keep his promise. One of the aristocrats intervenes, perplexed as to how the empress could even ask for such a step. Louise calmly replies that this will be the first such case in history, and then she is asked why the decision was made so suddenly. The girl claims that this idea has been brewing for a long time, and she no longer intends to tolerate such a life, and therefore demands her overthrow. More precisely, she had been thinking about this since the 3rd day after waking up, and the first point of her plan was to avoid eternal sleep and live a long and happy life without the title of Empress. In her opinion, being an empress is tantamount to working for free, and she does not understand why she should continue this without any benefit, to which the aristocrat asks who will then take care of state affairs. Louise replies that this is precisely why she needs to have financial independence after the divorce. She also notes that during all this time her family has never been mentioned, and there is only one reason why they do not respond to letters. Most likely, her family turned away from her because she was never able to earn the emperor's favor. Therefore, left without a plan and funds after the divorce, she risks simply dying of hunger. This is why the girl declares her desire to officially work in the palace, which greatly surprises the emperor. The main character explains that she wants to become his subject, not his empress. His Majesty rises from his seat, not believing what he has heard, and Louise calmly declares that from now on her work must be paid. She also makes it clear that she expects overtime, paid vacation, severance pay, and even a pension, so he should be prepared for these conditions. After some time, the main character wakes up and remembers what they say about people's ability to get used to anything. She hasn't felt such a fresh morning in a long time, and Louise is surprised at how well she managed to sleep. The memories are becoming clearer, but she understands that if she lets down her guard, she risks forgetting her own past. A little later, the lady remembers that she used to be an ordinary civil servant. One of the maids apologizes and cautiously asks Her Majesty what exactly this means. Louise explains that she is talking about a civil servant, or more precisely, a tax inspector, a person who administers taxes. Hearing the word taxes, the girls exchange glances, and the main character comes to the conclusion that taxes exist in every world. Although her past life was difficult, there were still many bright and pleasant moments in it. One day, a colleague recommended a book with an extremely dark plot to her, and for a long time, Louise couldn't understand why the heroine had such a fate. She eventually gave up reading, deciding that it was too sad and she couldn't bear to hear such stories any longer. And when she opened her eyes again, she found herself here, and Louise realized that from the outside, all this sounded extremely ridiculous. But then one of the maids admiringly informs Her Majesty that it all sounds truly wonderful, and the story has a surprisingly fresh and light beginning that immediately attracts attention. She's also amazed by the world within the book itself, as she couldn't have imagined such an unusual and well-thought-out plot. The protagonist realizes she only mentioned it to check if something similar had happened before, and wonders if she'll ever be able to return. However, after a very short time, one of the ladies suddenly bursts into Her Majesty's chambers and cries out in alarm, announcing that they have serious problems. When the main character goes outside, she is perplexed by what could have happened. But the aristocrats immediately raise a fuss and begin vying with each other to call upon Her Majesty. One of them suggests discussing everything later, the other claims that they have too much unfinished business, so they ask her not to leave her responsibilities. Someone else insists that all work in the palace has come to a complete standstill, and begs for at least this issue to be resolved. Louise wonders if they've really caused such a stir just because of her one-day strike. The girl begins to think and asks herself if she really was the only one responsible for such a huge amount of work. One of the ladies claims that in fact more than half of these matters should be decided by ministers, and the main character immediately wonders if this is not within their direct authority. The maid confirms that this is indeed the case, and then the main character finally understands why Louise worked all the time without rest and seemed constantly exhausted. It turns out that she was not only performing her duties, but also the work that, in theory, the incompetent emperor and nobles should have been doing. So the girl concludes that it's not surprising that Louise has driven herself into a state of eternal sleep. One of the maids wonders what exactly Her Majesty is talking about. The protagonist explains that at this rate, she could fall asleep forever from exhaustion and she has no intention of continuing this. One of the aristocrats cries out again, but the girl merely orders the guards to close the gates. One of the guards apologizes sheepishly, and the girl notes to herself that Louise probably wouldn't even be able to give such an order. At this time, the aristocrats continue to indignantly appeal to Her Majesty, claiming that she has no right to act this way, and asking her not to abandon them. However, the girl states that she is not abandoning anyone because they were the ones who abandoned her first and took advantage of her labor without a twinge of conscience. Then one of them almost begs her to help with at least this issue, hinting that if Her Majesty does not intervene, they will have to resort to extreme measures. The main character wonders what they mean, and soon someone actually comes to her. He says that this is his first visit to the Rose Palace, and adds that he would like to ask the lady to call off the strike. This young man turns out to be the Chancellor of the Empire named Rule Filbert, and the girl realizes that the aristocrats were not mistaken in calling him their last resort. Rule Filbert is the highest-ranking official in charge of state affairs, and also the youngest chancellor in the Empire's history. The second son of Marquis Filbert, he was known as a true genius from childhood. The previous emperor hired him right after graduating from the academy, but in the book, he barely interacted with Louise. The young man once again emphasizes that he came with a request to convince the lady to call off her strike. He also wonders how she managed to restrain herself all this time, after which the girl wonders what exactly he means. The guy explains that he's talking about all the work she did alone. The girl realizes that Louise was too gentle and patient. That is why her actions shocked everyone, and now the main character notes that Louise tried her best to finally get the emperor to pay attention to her, but it was all in vain. Eventually, she realized she couldn't go on like this. The young man, however, believed she should temporarily forget about state affairs, as events outside the palace walls were far more important. He hands over a newspaper and invites the lady to look at it, after which the main character wonders with bewilderment what is written there. The guy explains that this is gossip about her, and the girl is surprised that such a thing even exists, because poor Louise didn't even suspect how much was discussed behind her back. Then the girl notices one of the pages and wonders what exactly she sees, and the guy confirms that her guess is correct. The page contains truly shocking news. According to an anonymous source, the Empress demanded a divorce at yesterday's banquet, and it is believed that the Emperor's infidelity was the reason, as his mistress is said to be none other than the famous Owen Flower. At this point, the young man asks if the lady has realized how dangerous and tense the situation has become, and if she truly understands its seriousness. In response, Ta says he's right, and now things have really taken a difficult and disturbing turn. Then the guy tries to figure out if she's finally grasped what he's feeling. However, the girl only wonders if she doesn't look more attractive than Lady Lyra, which leaves the young man completely confused. The main character continues to reflect and wonders if she is the only one who thinks this way, because, in her opinion, it is completely obvious. After this, Louise points to the page in the newspaper and turns to Lord Rule, trying to understand which of them he considers more beautiful. The guy reacts sharply, thinking that now it doesn't matter at all, and the main character decides to herself that maybe she really doesn't understand, because they are both attractive. However, in her mind, cats still seem cuter than rabbits, after which she wonders why Rule isn't answering, or perhaps he's not interested in women at all. He abruptly declares that neither is to his liking. The protagonist then wonders if the lord is single, to which he confirms this, but doesn't understand the point of the question. Sometime later, newspapers reported that the Empress was challenging Owen's Flower. An anonymous source claimed she insulted her rival's appearance and called herself a true beauty. Reading this, the protagonist realizes there must be spies in the palace. She did say something similar, but it was all greatly distorted. She is irritated by how willingly people delve into other people's lives, and yet everyone is sure that she will not be able to get a divorce. Louise realizes that she herself did not expect an easy outcome, and soon comes to the conclusion that this cannot continue any longer, because she needs a clear and well thought out plan. First of all, she needs to remember everything that is supposed to happen in the future, and the first thing she needs to do during this month is to get a divorce, since the prophecy is about to come true. The emperor married Louise solely for her birth. The Vidal family rarely interfered in foreign policy, showing no interest in it, yet rumors circulated that their hidden wealth exceeded that of the imperial family itself. This was largely due to the Philiadet mine, located in the south of the Vidal domain, where elemental crystals, minerals, imbued with the power of the elements and allowing the use of magic, were mined annually. Only the Vidal family had the ability to awaken these crystals, which kept the mine out of the reach of the imperial family. However, one day in the Vidal family, where for a long time only boys were born, a girl was born, Louise Vidal. Upon learning of this, the former emperor immediately demanded a marriage between the House of Vidal and the imperial family. Their goal was to produce an heir with her genes, but an unexpected problem arose. The emperor, weakened by his emotions, decided to get rid of Louise and attempted to carry out this plan several days ago during a feast. It was then that a prophecy was heard in the temple that the daughter of the Red Iris would bring peace and prosperity to the empire. It was also said that whoever possessed it would become the ruler of the continent. The protagonist realizes that the Red Iris is the symbol of House Videl. In other words, the daughter of the Red Iris is Louise Videl, and every nation, not just the Owen Empire, is striving for power over the entire continent. Upon hearing the prophecy, the emperor's mother, fearing the loss of Louise, ordered soldiers to keep an eye on her. The girl never stops thinking about why she had to be reborn as such a complex and dangerous character. After this, she makes a list of necessary actions and decides that this is enough for now, because right now the most important things for her are the first and second points: a divorce within a month and preventing the prophecy. After all, even in the event of a divorce, the prophecy could still come true, and it is impossible to imagine the imperial family giving up the key to conquering the continent. Problems would also arise if other states intervened in this game, so she would prefer not to allow such a development. Louise also realizes that the role of mistress of the Videl household sounds far more appealing than that of Empress, constrained by constant restrictions. Her family has sufficient wealth to live comfortably, but she will still have to resolve the issue of her other holdings. At this moment, a maid runs into Her Majesty, and the main character wonders what happened this time. The girl reports that the emperor immediately summons her to the central palace. Louise realizes that this day has finally come and reflects on how he has been dragging his feet on this decision for too long, trying to figure out what exactly he had in mind. He was left with no choice, and the lady wondered why he took so long to think about his answer. However, this no longer matters, because the main thing is that today she will receive a final answer when she approaches the door. There, Lady Lyra asks what brought Her Majesty to this place, and Louise, in response, only reflects on what she thinks. After all, the emperor himself wanted to see her, and the main character wonders whether the emperor's mistress is allowed to be in his office, since the nobility would be outraged if she found out about it. Meanwhile, Lyra apologizes and claims that the emperor is busy with state affairs and asks not to be disturbed. Louise wonders if this means she will be in his way, but the girl assures her that this is not what she meant at all. After this, Lyra looks like she's about to burst into tears. The maid apologizes and emphasizes that the Empress is here at the Emperor's direct invitation. In response, Lady Lyra doubts and thinks that this simply cannot be. The main character coldly notes that everyone around her says that the lady is a kind and worthy woman, but she herself is convinced that behind this mask hides a real predator, skillfully pretending to be a harmless and gentle person. For her, however, this does not particularly matter. Since she does not intend to stay here, she has neither the time nor the desire to participate in such games, so she makes it clear that she would prefer to step aside. Lyra asks in bewilderment if the lady is really talking about games, since she has always sincerely wanted to be friends with her and build a relationship, although now she feels obvious tension. Then the main character asks a counter question about what exactly she is accused of, and clarifies whether she has ever mocked the lady, and also reminds that she only asked her to stay away from her husband. She adds that she never turned the nobles against her, and ultimately notes that communicating with a person who does not want to listen quickly exhausts and saps one of strength. After this, she invites her maid to return, which greatly surprises the servant, and then orders her to convey a certain message to the emperor. She makes it clear that if from now on he has something to say, then he should write her letters and not force her to drag herself to him in person unnecessarily. At this moment, the emperor opens the door and asks where the noise is coming from, and Lyra immediately hurries to approach him. Yuri turns to the girl and asks what is going on here, and Lyra, holding back tears, apologizes and assures that she did not want to interfere with his affairs. Louise quickly realizes that she is a very capable actress, after which she apologizes to His Majesty and says that she was just about to leave. However, the man grabs her hand and asks where exactly she is going, and whether the lady was not told that he wanted to talk to her. The girl replies that she was told this, which is why she came, but she was told that he was busy, to which the man objects, stating that he is not busy at all, and orders her to follow him. Yuri also turns to Lyra, asking her to wait with him, after which the main character, together with the emperor, goes into his office. The man asks if the lady has gotten better, and Louise, confused, asks what exactly he is talking about. The Emperor smirks and asks if she is still pretending to be naive, since, in his opinion, this whole performance was staged for his attention. Louise is shocked by such conclusions, but the man continues, saying that he knows about his mistake, because bringing Lyra without warning was wrong, and he should have consulted with her, which he now regrets. He explains that he had his reasons, as the Blair family is currently going through hard times, is on the verge of ruin, and its members are scattered across different estates. Lyra and her younger brother and sister were forced to constantly wander among relatives, and he brought the girl to the palace out of pity, not even thinking of putting her in Louise's place. The main character abruptly interrupts him and declares that she does not want to listen to this, since she does not care at all about his thoughts and excuses. Then the Emperor asks if the lady understands his words, and assures her that she should not worry, because Lyra has a kind heart, and he sincerely believes that over time they will be able to get along. He adds that since the lady is alone in her family, she could treat the girl like a younger sister, and promises to talk to Lyra personally. Ultimately, he suggests that Louise let go of all the accumulated grievances and return to fulfilling her duties. However, the main character tells him to stop talking nonsense and just divorce her. The Emperor asks in surprise if she is serious, and the girl asks in response if he really thought she was joking. The man asks what will happen if he doesn't allow it, and then the girl coldly replies that he leaves her no choice, even though she sincerely wanted to resolve everything peacefully. He asks what exactly she plans to do, and the young lady calmly explains her plan. She declares that she will take a lover, frankly adding that the Emperor is not at all to her taste. After some time, Rule exclaims, asking what she is even thinking about and whether she has gone completely crazy. The main character confidently replies that she is completely serious, after which the guy begs her to come up with something else. The girl insists that this is the only possible way out, but Rule objects, reminding her that such a decision will inevitably affect her reputation. In response, she asks if he really thinks that this is really capable of tarnishing her honor. She recalls that the Empress allegedly entertains different men every night, and such a topic for gossip would clearly become extremely popular. Therefore, the guy carefully asks if she wants to test whether His Majesty will decide on a divorce, even if it will damage the reputation of the entire imperial family. The main character replies that similar cases have happened before, and if he still does not intend to divorce, then she has only one option left, to be expelled in disgrace. Rule begs Her Majesty not to do this, but the girl calmly remarks that everything is fine, he looks exhausted, so he should drink some tea. After this, the guy notices a newspaper on the young lady's desk and asks if she is still reading this nonsense. He picks up the newspaper and says that he already warned her, and since she has time for such nonsense, she should take a closer look at the contents. At that very moment, his gaze falls on an article from the Empress, which states that she is looking for a life partner, lists the Ross Palace in the capital as her place of residence, and emphasizes that she prefers monogamous men, after which the guy, in despair, wishes to plunge into eternal sleep. The main character asks him to calm down, but Rule exclaims that he is simply unable to remain calm in such a situation. He states that the article must be reissued immediately with a retraction, but the girl replies that it is already too late, since the news has probably been sent across the continent. She adds that what's done can't be undone, and the guy says angrily that if the first prince had been there, the empire wouldn't have found itself in this situation. Louise asks if he is talking about the first prince and remarks that she seems to have seen him before. The case concerns the missing first Prince Regan, Klaus Owen, the rightful heir to the throne and son of the former emperor and empress. One tragic and almost accidental episode led to Yuri Klaus ending up on the imperial throne, although his name had previously been almost never associated with such a fate. In the book, he is mentioned only once and does not appear in person, which is why the main character is perplexed and tries to figure out where he disappeared to. Ruel explains that the former emperor had serious health problems, so he went abroad for treatment, and the first prince decided to visit him. During the journey, the crew fell off a cliff. All those accompanying them were found dead. An investigation revealed that they had been attacked, but the body of the first prince was never found. This is why many are convinced that he is alive, and believe that he will one day return to lead the crumbling empire and the imperial family. Louise suggests that he must have been a remarkable man, but the servant strongly disagrees. According to him, the prince was even more stubborn than the current emperor, and it was no accident that he received the nickname Lightning. The servant claims that he has never met a more narcissistic person, but at the same time the young man enjoyed universal respect. The people had great hopes for him, so the servant also believes that one day he will return and put an end to the imperial chaos. The main character asks if she too is part of this chaos, to which the men confidently answer that she is. They are puzzled as to what the lady is even thinking and what they should do about this whole situation. Louise replies that she doesn't think it's necessary to interfere, as she's quite serious. She realizes this could be her chance to find her own destiny. Meanwhile, in the settlement of Zenoa in the northern part of the empire, people discuss how many days have passed and what to do if disaster strikes. One man calls for an end to superstitious talk, but another insists that it is strange to see so much lightning without fires and that it looks like God's punishment. Someone adds that something must be going on in the empire, especially if one recalls the recent events in the capital. At that moment, another man enters the inn. The worker greets him and asks if he is a traveler. He confirms and inquires about lodging for the night. The woman replies that there is a free room and suggests that they eat first, noting that the tavern is crowded even before dark and everyone is discussing events in the empire. She quietly adds that there's talk of complete chaos in the imperial family. The boy asks if the crazy emperor is in trouble again. The worker notes that he clearly doesn't follow the rumors, since everyone is talking about nothing but the emperor's divorce. Moreover, the Empress allegedly announced her search for a lover, and the young man began to laugh sincerely. He says that this person is clearly preparing something interesting, then apologizes and remembers the urgent matter. He asks if he can take the newspaper, and the woman agrees, but the young man throws a handful of gold coins into her hands. The worker objects to the gentleman that this is too much, since the newspaper only costs 5 silver coins. The young man is already mounting his horse and says it's time for him to go. The latest news reports are reporting a growing number of citizens supporting the Empress's divorce. The Empress managed to sway public opinion to her side by neglecting her own dignity and personally placing the announcement. Many critics saw her act as a graphic expression of the pain of unrequited love. The protagonist realizes the Empress is determined. Meanwhile, one of the maids informs her that the people are completely on her side. At first, the maid was worried about what the lady was thinking, but now it is clear that she had foreseen everything, although the girl herself thinks otherwise. The maid assures that the Empress now has the advantage, since the people are criticizing the emperor and demanding her release. Louise is delighted by this, and believes she'll be able to get a divorce within a month. One of the ladies asks if she's really considering working after the divorce, and she confirms that she needs to support herself. However, the maid reminds her that Louise is the daughter of the Duke of Videla, and the girl understands that there is truth in these words. She doesn't know what to do, as she has no idea where her family is. At that moment, a maid bursts into the room and reports a problem. It turns out that Lord Louis has arrived in the capital, and the main character gets up, trying to figure out who it is. The maid is surprised by the question and explains that this is the lady's older brother. The heroine recalls that this is Louise's only brother and the heir of the Vidal family, whose family rarely left their estate without a good reason. They were in the capital only once, on the day of the emperor's coronation, when Louise fell into eternal sleep and the presence of all nobles was obligatory. The girl reflects that even then they did not visit Louise, and does not understand why her brother suddenly rushed in now, and whether history will change because of her, as happened with Ruel. After this, she asks what kind of person her brother is, which surprises the maids. The girl explains that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and she doesn't remember him well, after which the lady almost has tears in her eyes. The maids agree that the mistress is right, because they haven't seen each other for 10 years, and the Empress is really having a hard time. One of them adds that, to put it bluntly, the lady's brother is not in his right mind, and the most notorious incident occurred at the Emperor's coronation. That day the lady retired to her chambers early and did not witness the events, although the heroine understands that Louise returned because of the crowd that showed disrespect to her. Then a conflict broke out between Lord Louis and Lord Emio. Lord Louis was furious and grabbed Lord Emio by the hair. The main character curiously tries to understand what her brother did and whether he really tore out all her hair, but the girls explain that he burned it. and only half of it. She doesn't hide her shock, asking if he really did it, and the maid calmly clarifies that everything happened because of Lord Emio. Lord Emio attacked the lady's brother, demanding compensation, but he merely burned the remaining half of his hair, showing no remorse. By the age of 18, Lord Emio had gone completely bald. He sought the best doctors, but all attempts to restore his hair proved futile. The protagonist wonders if she wants to reveal that her brother did it. The maid insists that she does, adding that the Chancellor officially calls him a madman. One of the maids whispers to the other not to speak so bluntly, and then addresses Her Majesty with caution. She adds that there's no point in listening to her colleague, as her brother simply has a unique personality. The protagonist replies that she understands the situation without further explanation. The girl reflects on how she hoped to find in him someone she could talk to like a human being. Meanwhile, the maid claims that this same man burned the Crown Prince's garden. Louise wonders why he sets everything on fire and whether her brother is a pyromaniac. The maid explains that this is because the Vadel family only chooses fire elements, and therefore their temperament is characterized by a stormy character. At this time, another maid closes her mouth first, and the main character clarifies whether this means that she can also control fire. The maid suggests that, perhaps yes, since the girl also belongs to the Vadel family. Louise realizes that while she was getting used to this world, she read a lot about elementals, and now a lot of things are starting to come together in her head. She understands that there are different types of elemental crystals that the user chooses to shape their abilities. The Vadel family has chosen a fire elemental for generations, and such people are extremely rare on the continent, so they are held in high esteem. The girl realizes that if she succeeds, she will not have to humiliate herself in front of the Vadels, and, if necessary, she will be able to seek asylum in another country, postponing her victory over her brother. For now, you can postpone resolving the conflict in order to prepare and understand your strengths. Suddenly, one of the maids cries out to Her Majesty that Lord Louis has arrived. Louise replies that she heard about it, and asks if her brother has arrived in the capital. The maid clarifies that he almost has. He's already waiting outside. Meanwhile, the guy asks the maid why the girl is taking so long to get ready and fiddling with the details. The maid explains that the lady has not seen her family for a long time and wants to look good in front of her brother. The young man wonders what family, since she's not his sister. At that moment, another servant opens the gate and apologizes for the wait. The woman leads the guy to the place where the main character is sitting and informs Her Majesty of the arrival of Lord Louis. The guy is irritated even by the flowers and thinks that it would be easier to just burn them. At this time, Louise is wondering if he is really already there, and the young man is wondering who she is and what kind of mysterious person is in front of him. He then asks again in surprise if she is a fairy, which shocks all the ladies present, who fall silent. The protagonist wonders if others heard that this man just called her a fairy. The girl understands that the guy can now burn her with his gaze, although he looks quite reserved if he weren't frowning. Louise wonders if he just called her a fairy, and if that's how fairies are usually viewed. She worries that he will burn everything around her, and at the same time she wonders how to address him as brother or as Lord Louis, observing formalities. The guy tells Her Majesty that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and the girl understands that the meeting is now official. She replies that she is glad to meet, but the young man, maintaining a serious face, apologizes for visiting without an invitation. He thanks her for making time for the meeting, and the girl insists that everything is fine, since she doesn't have much to do today. Besides, they're family, so he can eat like he does at home. The young man asks if she's really saying that, and not just playing along. He is only from a noble family, and he is interested in how she allows herself to feel at home in front of him. He has little time, so he says directly that he has come for a specific purpose. The boy points to the newspaper and asks if what it says is true, and the young lady confirms that it is. He wonders what she's up to. He believes that if this is being done for the sake of the Emperor's favor, she should stop. Otherwise, she will dishonor the name of Vadel. He doesn't care about the showdown with the Emperor, but he wants his family's name to remain clean. The protagonist asks if he thinks she is acting for the Emperor's favor and inquires about the reason for his confidence. The young man claims that this is because the lady does not intend to divorce him. The girl says that she doesn't care about other people's opinions and it doesn't bother her. She hoped that at least her family would believe in her sincerity, but she understands that even Louise's family isolated her. The guy claims that she is not family to him and that he does not have a sister. The main character understands that he is again insisting on his own way, and the young man reminds her that she first turned away from the Videls, and now she is making a fuss about the divorce. He doesn't know what she's up to, but he's determined not to fall for her tricks. The girl ponders what exactly he won't fall for, and wonders if he means her decision to turn away from the Videls. The guy says that she chose the emperor and his family. The main character doubts whether he is joking, because she was forced to be there, and now she feels superfluous. The brother rises and declares that this is all he wanted to say, so the lady should remember his words and not think about returning to the Videl house. Now she is a member of the imperial family and an enemy to all Videls. Louise knows that part of her really wants to hit him, but she feels that if she lets him go so easily, they will never see each other again. The young lady immediately jumps up from her seat and shouts loudly for him to wait, preventing him from going forward. When the girl tries to move forward again, she again shouts for him to stop, but suddenly trips over a stone in the path. And as soon as they call the guy brother, she falls right on him, wondering why she tripped at that particular moment. Instinctively, she grabs it, and the guy at that moment tries to understand what she just said. He also wants to understand what exactly she called him. Louise wonders if he was offended by her calling him, quote, brother. After this, she repeats her act, and soon they notice that the guy is almost on fire, shouting that brother is burning. The girl asks if he is okay, and if the flame is not supposed to be hot, but he just screams at her not to touch him. The main character sees that he is embarrassed and turns to him again, calling him brother. Seeing his reaction, she starts to circle around him, constantly calling him brother. The guy claims that it doesn't change anything, and the lady wonders why he is so cold, since they haven't seen each other for 10 years. The young man suggests that she not say that again, since she was the first to turn away from them 10 years ago. Louise doesn't understand what they're talking about, and the guy reminds her that she's never tried to contact them, so there's no point in pretending to be a happy family. The main character wonders what exactly it means that she never tried to keep in touch. Her brother asks if she's trying to deny the past 10 years, as if it means nothing. He says he sent thousands of letters during this time, but she never responded to a single one. Even when he begged her to write at least a line, she remained unanswered, and now it is too late to correct anything. Louise thinks that perhaps she was the one who broke off relations with her family first, and wonders why she did it. After some time, the girl claims that this is illogical, because she cannot believe that Louise herself destroyed the connection with her family. She understands that she is not the right girl and cannot understand the reasons, but she knows that she misses her family for the rest of her life, which makes her think. The girl sighs and admits it's driving her crazy. Then someone else agrees that the lady is right. He seems to be losing his mind. The protagonist apologizes, admitting that she's feeling dizzy. The guy says he's not surprised. Given the crazy thing she does, it's natural, but if the lady offered to help, he should focus. Louise realizes that she offered help more out of pity when he passed by. She didn't expect him to agree, and realized that there was a lot of work to be done, after which she sighed heavily. Rule asks what's going on, and the main character says it has to do with her brother. The guy notices that Louis seems to have recently visited the creator and asks what they were doing, since yesterday he almost set the office on fire. The main character is surprised that he is really close to her brother, since he called him by his name. She continues to think that perhaps this is not a love affair, and the guy screams, wondering where the lady got such thoughts from. Louise claims he doesn't seem interested in women, and she decided he could confide in her because she wouldn't tell anyone. The guy exclaims that they went to the same academy. He adds that he was the best in the Faculty of General Sciences, and Louis was the best among the knights. The girl is surprised that her brother graduated from the Faculty of Knights. The guy explains that Videl's children are good with a sword, and if she hadn't gotten married, she could have graduated from the academy too. Since the lady is talented in administrative matters, she could well enter his faculty. Louise is delighted by the praise, and the guys joke that praise would make even a whale dance, after which they ask her to focus on work. The guy continues to work, but notices the main character staring at him. He asks what Louis did, and the girl replies that they did not part on the best note, and he asked why she did not answer for 10 years. Rule wonders how the lady could do such a thing, as it was extremely impudent, while one of the maids then screams that this is not true, because how could he say that? The lady has been sending letters to her family since childhood, and one of the maids replies that this is true because she sent letters to Lord Louis and the Duke of Waddell 3 times a week. The main character wonders if this is true, and one of the maids answers what exactly it is, but they never deign to answer. They acted as if the lady didn't exist. Louise then thinks that since both sides wrote letters to each other and neither received a reply, that means someone was intercepting the letters. Rule insists there really is no other explanation, and it's clear someone was trying to completely separate her from her family. The main character wonders who could have intercepted the Empress's letters right in the palace. The man replies that only a few people could have. And the main character claims that, firstly, it's definitely not the Emperor, to which the guy replies that it's most likely not him, and the main character thinks that he's too stupid. The girl also understands that it is definitely not Lyra, because the letters began to disappear 10 years ago, and she appeared in the palace only 5 years ago. The guy insists that this is true, and besides, the Count's daughter would never dare to do something like that, and only if she were completely out of her mind. After this, the main character says what they will do, and the guy asks what she is going to do. The lady claims that from now on she will set traps. The young lady's brother is sitting in the estate at this time, and then someone addresses the gentleman and also claims that a visitor has arrived to see him. The guy then asks if anyone knows what he is there, to which the man replies that they said the Empress sent him. The young man immediately screams out where he is, to which he replies that he is in the living room. After which Louis goes there, but sees the Chancellor there, who says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The guy then asks why he is there, and he replies that he himself is asking himself why he is there. Then the young lady's brother tells him to get lost, but Rule tells him to wait because someone has been stealing letters from the Flower Palace for a long time. The young man then asks what he is talking about, and the Chancellor claims that he is saying this so that he knows. And so he hasn't received a letter from the Empress for 10 years. Meanwhile, Rule thinks he just needs to look at this guy. Then anyone could say that he loves his sister and Louis Waddell is the heir of the Waddell house. He is the Empire's greatest troublemaker, bully, and thug. A knight with a cold heart, his fiery abilities are completely at odds with his nature. But there was a time when he still had a warm heart, even if it only lasted for 7 years. One day, the boy received a letter from his father, saying that the imperial family had taken Louise away. Then Rule, in shock, asked the guy if he really had decided to quit the academy and if he had completely lost his mind. After all, what was he thinking about? But when the young man looked at him with that gaze, the Chancellor fell silent. At that time he condemned him without knowing the whole picture, and now he claims that the Empress is making every effort to sort out the situation formed over these 10 years, and besides, he doesn't hate her and he simply can't. So let the guy just stop acting like a little child. Well, then the Chancellor smells something, and then he notices that the table is on fire. The butler immediately pours a bucket of water on the table. And the Chancellor turns to Louis and claims that his wife clearly must master the element of water, otherwise every time they quarrel they will burn down the house. To which the guy replies that then he will simply buy a new one. But Louis asks if he's crazy. The guy then sits down at the table and says that they're worried about his marriage so he can continue. The Chancellor claims that once they narrowed down the suspects, there was only one person left. But that's just their guess, and they won't reveal it until they're sure of everything. The young lady's brother then says, "Wonderful." And he wonders what his interlocutor is going to do because he probably has a plan. To which he replies that, of course, the Empress is already heading towards the suspect. After which Louis asks what he is talking about. And did you really send this fragile child alone to an unknown, dangerous place? The Chancellor claims that this child, or rather, the Empress, is far from being fragile and he cannot even imagine what she really is. After all, this is the devil in the flesh, but then the guy notices how something else lights up, and he sees that it is a chair. After which, the butler pours a bucket of water onto the table along with the Chancellor. Louis at this time grabs the guy by the clothes and screams for him to take him there quickly. The Chancellor then asks where to take him, but the young lady's brother asks if he is really that stupid, since Rule should take him to his sister. One of the maids at this point turns to someone and apologizes. She claims the Empress asked for an urgent letter to be delivered to Duke Waddell. She brought it as quickly as she could, after which the guy claims that everything is fine. After which he goes to send the letter, and the main character watches all this. A short time later, the young man hands the letter to a woman, who asks if it's another letter for the Duke. The servant replies that, yes, the Empress said it was urgent, so it could be something very important. Well, the woman then says, honestly, and asks if she's really fed up. And also, is this girl really that stubborn or just stupid? The guy then tells the lady to be careful, because he heard that Lord Louis Waddell is in the capital and if they are caught. Well, after that, the woman smirks and asks how this idiot will be able to catch them. But the guy wonders if the woman hasn't heard that the Empress has changed lately and he thinks they should stop. However, the woman then turns to Sir Raimi and asks if he's trying to back out. She then tells him not to worry, because even if they're caught, she's on their side and the Empress won't be able to do anything. At this time, the main character asks if there is anything she can do and asks who they are talking about. The guy immediately cries out in shock, wondering how Her Majesty got there. But the girl asks if he doesn't understand, and don't they see how everything has changed since her arrival? The boy then tries to close the sheet and cries out to Her Majesty that everything is wrong. And the woman with the letter claims that this is a misunderstanding, after which the main character claims that they dare say that this is a misunderstanding even when she literally caught them red-handed. And do they really think she's that stupid? The guy then cries out to Her Majesty that no, and he wouldn't dare. Well, then the main character looks at this maid and thinks, what kind of look is this? Because an ordinary maid has no right to look at the Empress like that. The woman turns to Her Majesty and apologizes, but insists that this is the palace of the Empress's mother. She may not be there now, but that doesn't give the lady the right to barge in without permission. The main character asks if this is really true and believes that the girl thinks that a simple servant and a knight have the right to steal the Empress's letters. After this, the woman doesn't even know what to say, and the young lady says that they forgot and let her return the letter while she asks nicely. Well, the maid replies that she can't, because it was a direct order from the Empress's mother. The main character asks if it is true that the Empress ordered them to commit theft, after which the woman screams whether she is talking about theft. And he wonders how the lady dares to use such expressions towards the Empress's mother. After this, Louise says that she herself just said that it was she who gave them the order, and wonders if the maid has memory problems. After which she also says that she is interested in whether the Emperor knows about all this, because if not, then she clearly needs to tell him right now. The girl also understands that, as expected, this idiot had nothing to do with it. And this means that the Mother Empress did all this alone, but the girl still does not understand why and whether it was really in order to separate her from her family. It would be wiser to use her to gain the favor of her family, so why muddy the waters like that? The main character at this time turns to Sarami and also claims that she is giving him one last chance. Let him bring her this letter. She agrees and takes the letter from the maid's hands. The woman is shocked and screams at him. But the guy turns to her and insists that he told her this was all wrong. He also tells Her Majesty that he was simply following orders and had no choice. The protagonist claims that she did say she would give him a chance, so he shouldn't worry. But in exchange, let them return all the letters that they stole over these 10 years, and they should be there. The guy claims that it is probably somewhere in the palace, after which everyone bows to the lady. And he runs to the palace, but when the woman tries to stop him, he only leads her astray. After this, the maid screams, "How dare he?" And when the lady finds out about this, she will cut off his head. At this time, other servants approach Her Majesty, and the girl claims that they are just in time. After which he orders the woman to be taken into custody immediately. The young man then apologizes, after which the servants run to the woman. And the maid cries out to Her Majesty to think about what she is doing, since she is the personal servant of the Empress's mother. And if she finds out what she did to her, well, the main character tells the lady not to worry, because they'll sort it out. The woman then asks if she's afraid of the Empress's mother. But the protagonist asks if she looks scared, because if she were, she wouldn't have started all this in the first place. Then the maid says that the lady must want to visit that room again, and I wonder if she'll be okay then. The main character wonders which room she's talking about and what this strange behavior is all about, and also why Louise tolerated such an attitude towards herself, and maybe it was because she was an introvert, or maybe she doesn't know something. At this point, one of the maids asks Her Majesty what's wrong, and the girl replies that everything is fine anyway, because she's already hungry from all this. A little while later, the maids greet Her Majesty, and the girl sees Lady Lyra there, and he thinks that the cunning fox is there, but it seems she won't rest today. Meanwhile, Lyra apologizes to Her Majesty for arriving unannounced, and the main character says that if she is sorry, then next time let the lady warn her. Louise also asks what brought her there, as she's tired today, so maybe she'll be brief. The girl claims she just wanted to apologize for what happened, after which she asks for forgiveness and claims that she behaved disrespectfully towards her and that she was not informed that the Emperor had summoned her to him. The main character replies that nothing, and the lady was just worried that the Emperor was so busy, so she understands everything. Lyra asks if this is true, and the main character asks if she is finished. Then she'd better leave before her tea arrives. Lyra then tells Her Majesty to wait, as she sincerely wants to apologize. Louise replies that yes, she accepts her apology and also forgives, after which she asks if everything is okay now. Or she wants to add something, after which the lady states that, if the Empress does not mind, then she might ask what she and Yuri, or more precisely, the Emperor, discussed then. Louise says that the lady could have asked the Emperor himself about this, or maybe he doesn't want to tell her. After this, Lyra says that no, and Yuri always tells her everything, and he is just busy now, so she does not want to disturb him. The main character then says that he wanted to talk about her request for a divorce, and she asked again, but he refused. Lyra then asks if he refused, and wonders why. But the protagonist asks how she knows what's on his mind, and wishes it were a lie. Well then, the girl asks what the lady is going to do, but the main character asks why she is asking and what she can do. Louise also wonders if she doesn't know what she's been doing lately, and she's looking for an obedient and devoted lover. She wonders if it's because she doesn't care, or because the Emperor still doesn't care, but either way, it's none of her business. Lyra at this time turns to Her Majesty, and claims that she knows that because of her, the lady and the Emperor have become estranged from each other. The main character claims that it is surprising that Lady Lyra understood this so quickly, and she thought that she would need at least 10 years. After which the girl immediately approaches the Empress and claims that she wanted them to become friends, and also to become sisters with Her Majesty, and she is sure that they still can. The girl claims she will serve her. The protagonist then asks what she's talking about and tells the girl to repeat it, but she insists that the lady does have an older brother. She heard that they were separated when the lady became crown princess at a young age. She also has younger brothers and sisters, so she is sure that they will be able to get along. The main character is surprised after this, and claims that she is now saying the same thing as the Emperor. Lyra claims that it is because she always tries to understand him, and the girl tells Her Majesty that she is happy with her position as the Emperor's concubine, and he will never encroach on her place. But Yuri is not having an easy time right now, so she asks the lady to stop tormenting him. But the main character then tells Lady Lyra that reality is not a fairy tale. A happy ending always means sacrifices. And they, along with the Emperor, inadvertently demand sacrifices from her, and then say that she rejected their goodwill, so the girl suggests stopping this. Lyra then says that Her Majesty is too harsh, but the protagonist asks if that's really true. She wonders if the girl is really saying that to someone who's having a perfectly rational conversation with her husband's mistress. Lyra asks if the lady is talking about her as a lover, and she also says that everything would have been fine if she had initially compromised. The main character wonders if the girl is trying to take everything from her, and now he is telling her something about compromises, so doesn't she think that this is a little selfish? Well then, the girl also wonders why she's talking to her. She also tells Lady Lyra that this seems to be her first visit to the Rose Palace, to which the girl replies, yes. And the main character asks what her impression is of the lady, and she replies that she thinks it's wonderful because it's so spacious, luxurious, and majestic that it can't be compared to other creators. Louise wonders if this is true, and asks if the lady would like to live there then. Lyra is surprised by this, and the main character asks if the girl would like to become the lady of the Flower Palace. Louise also thinks why she figured this out before, because she will never be able to persuade this stupid emperor, and as long as it is in his interests for her to remain in the palace, he will never divorce her. But with this lady, it's different. Lyra asks if Lady Louise is saying this on purpose, and whether she thinks she's a fool. After all, if she agrees now, the lady will immediately go and tell Yuri about it. that she's aiming for the Empress's place. The main character then says, "God forbid," and Lyra insists that the lady didn't quite understand her, because she's not stupid. And the main character thinks that she doesn't think she can convince her otherwise. Then he claims that the lady had previously said that she was content to be the emperor's concubine. So what if she gets pregnant and her child will never inherit the throne? So the girl asks if that's okay with her. Lyra asks why the lady is saying such things. And the main character replies that this is because the girl is not an empress, and her child, even if he is younger, will still be able to receive the throne. Her child will be forced to live in the shadows for the rest of his life. The girl becomes a little depressed after this, and the main character asks if the lady says that she would be satisfied with a position as the emperor's concubine, but then her children will live in oppression their entire lives. They won't even be allowed to look up, much less stand in the way, and perhaps she will be able to live like this her whole life. But is she ready to subject her children to such a fate? And now everything is not so rosy, so stop pretending to be a sweet lamb, and ambitious people are better than hypocrites. Lyra then turns to Her Majesty and asks why these cruel words. After all, doesn't she care about the suffering of others? The main character only tells the lady not to slander, because she is the only one who still continues to behave so arrogantly and omnipotently, although she is only a mistress. After which Louise asks why she always has this attitude and doesn't she care about other people's suffering? But after this, the girl screams that she is not a mistress, and Yuri promised that he would soon marry her and then she will not be a mistress and will also officially become his wife. The main character claims that this is wonderful, and that she will call her wife only after the wedding, but until that moment she still remains a mistress, so she needs to express herself more clearly. After this, Lyra says what a cruel lady she is, and she came there because she really wanted to make friends. Well, he wonders how she can say such things. One of the maids asks if the girl is really crying. But at that very moment, the emperor runs up and addresses Louise, asking what she has done. At this time, Lyra turns to Yuri and asks what brought him there, and the guy only asks if everything is okay. He also wonders what happened, and whether the Empress really offended the girl, so let her stop crying and answer him whether she really said something offensive. Lyra replies that no, and Her Majesty did nothing, she is simply not good enough. After this, the main character thinks that this girl is a great actress, and the guy asks what the lady is talking about, and who told her that. He also turns to Louise and asks what she said to the lady that made her shudder, and she replies that she doesn't know. And maybe the lady is cold, because the sun is already setting. But the emperor then wonders how Louise can be so shameless, when she should be full of remorse. And did she really call the lady to throw mud at her? To which the main character replies that if she hadn't answered, she would have come there herself. But the man tells her not to dare lie to him, because the girl has finally decided to show her true face, and she asked for a divorce to get rid of Lyra. Louise then thinks that maybe she should just punch the guy, but then suddenly gets up from her seat, and then he falls to the floor. The emperor asks what the lady is doing and whether she has finally decided to apologize. And this is wonderful, although it is a bit late, but let the girl try to be kinder to Leah. After this, the main character tells him to stop talking nonsense and then starts crying. His Majesty then asks why the hell she's crying so suddenly. The maid immediately runs up to Her Majesty and asks if she's okay. One of them then says she thinks the Empress is shocked. The male emperor then asks why the lady is crying and whether he thinks he'll forgive her everything just because she's crying. After this, Lyra says that he is right, because the lady was rude to her first, and now he wants to make her feel guilty. At this time, the main character asks how he can speak like that, since they lived in perfect harmony for 10 years, but now he only takes the words of this girl into account. The man then asks if the girl is really blaming him now. But this is incredible, because she is to blame for everything, and if only the lady would behave appropriately. But the main character asks what's wrong with Togo, and also does she really deserve to live locked up like a toy and always have to clean up after him? After which the lady screams out, asking why he even married her. But the guy then only screams, why is she really asking? And the lady has long known why. It's all to have a child with their Videl genes. And this is generally the only purpose of her existence, because for him she is nothing more and nothing less. After which the emperor extends his hand to the young lady, but she only smiles. After which her brother grabs His Majesty by the hand and also asks furiously, What is he even allowing himself to do? The blonde then wonders if it really is Lord Lewis and what he's doing there. Well, the guy asks if he is really forbidden to be there, to which His Majesty replies that that is not what he meant. At this time, the main character realizes that she did not expect her brother to come so quickly, but now she even has an advantage. The girl also looks at Lyra, who looks scared, after which he smiles. He also wonders if the girl thinks she's the only one there who knows how to cry. Meanwhile, the guy turns to his sister, and he asks why she is sitting on the cold floor. The thing is, let the girl get up faster. He also claims that the dress is dirty and wonders why the lady is in such a state, because her ugly face is now even more terrible, and he wonders who did this to her. The guy also turns to Her Majesty and asks if it was he who upset her, or if it was the girl who made his sister cry. The Emperor claims that she actually burst into tears unexpectedly, and that it was Louise who first made Lyra cry. The guy then asks if his sister made this girl cry first, to which His Majesty replies that this is indeed the case, since he was simply trying to rectify the situation. But the young lady's brother argues that even if this is true, it is not a problem. And is the fact that his sister made this girl cry a problem? After all, Louise is the Empress, and this girl is just a mistress. After which, the guy turns to his sister again, and he asks her to tell him if they really treated her like this all the time, and also why she didn't say anything, and what she would have done if he hadn't come. The girl then claims she wanted to tell him, but then she wonders why she's crying. She's not the real Louise Vidal, but she still can't stop. The girl also claims she continued writing him letters, but at this time the Chancellor also says that, by the way, about the letters, maybe they are talking about these. After which he points to the bag. At this time, the servant tells Her Majesty that, on her orders, he delivered the letters that were hidden in the palace of the Empress's mother. The blonde then asks if they were really in his mother's palace, and the servant asks for forgiveness. After all this time, the Mother Empress ordered them to steal letters that were sent from the Flower Palace, but the Empress found out. His Majesty is then surprised and asks if his mother really ordered this. The young lady's brother at this time says that now everything is clear, after which the man screams for him to wait, because he knew nothing about this and did nothing to Louise. But the guy then asks what they are. Is this doll really the thing standing next to him now? And although if she is so empty-headed, then she is no different from a doll. The Emperor then cries out to Lord Lewis, who apologizes and says that he does value this woman. After which he asks to forgive his rudeness and states that on this note, he is taking Louise. Back to Vidal. The Emperor then asks what he's talking about, and the young lady's brother says, what else? The Vidals intend to participate in the divorce proceedings, which begin at this point. The blonde then asks what the guy is talking about, since Louise is a member of the imperial family, and the Empress cannot suddenly go to her home without a good reason. The guy then claims that, as far as he knows, the Empress has been living in her family estate for several days, and, according to rumors, she is hiding her lover there, and he looks so much like his mother. The Emperor doesn't even know what to answer to this, and at this time, the brother turns to Louise and invites her to go. The main character asks if they can go right now, but her brother then asks if she really wants to stay there. At this time, the girl looks at the Emperor and thinks, why is he so sour? He should make his face simpler. After which she turns to her brother and says that he is not serious. How can she stay there? Lewis then says that this is strange, after which he tells His Majesty that he then deviates. And as far as he knows, the Waddell estate is far from there. So he heard that Louise had given him all the divorce papers and was asking him to send them to them as soon as she gave her consent. The main character understands that now no one will stop them from leaving, and the girl wonders if the Vidal family is really that powerful. But the girl also wonders why Louise was hanging around there all the time. Meanwhile, the guy turns to Louise. She also apologizes for being late and for being rude to her. The main character can't hold back her tears after this. The young man then tells her not to cry because she's not a child anymore. The guy also asks what he should do if she starts crying again. He also says that the girl has grown so much, but he knows that deep down she is still his little Louise. The main character asks if this is true, and the young man replies that of course it is true, and Louise is and will always be Louise Waddell. The girl then thinks, what kind of strange sensations are these, because she is herself, and she knows that she is not Louise. But this guy's words make her feel like she has become one with Louise. At this time, the guy insists that it's time to go back, because all the news has probably already reached his father and he already knows everything. Louise then realizes that it seems she is about to meet the Duke of Videl. At this time, one of the servants turns to the head butler and he asks what is going on. The guy claims that he has urgent news and that he needs to talk to the Duke urgently, but the man replies that not now, because the Duke has important things to do. The guy asks if it really is, even if it is connected with Lord Louis, to which the butler replies that it is, and the guy asks if it really is, even if Lord Louis caused a commotion in the palace. The man replies that even if Lord Louis beats the Emperor, the Duke is busy, and he spends time with portraits of the Duchess, as well as Lady Louise Waddell. He only gets this precious time once a day, so if they want to live to old age, then let them be patient, and the guy then asks like this, after which he claims that he understood. And he also asks that you be sure to convey this to the Duke, because right now, this Lady Louise is returning home with Lord Louis, and they're expected to arrive tomorrow, so we need to prepare. But at that very moment, an explosion erupts from the room where the Duke is, after which the man comes out of there and asks what the guy said, and also who is returning. At this time, the Empress mother hits one of the maids, after which she screams that she can't just pour a cup of tea. She also asks why the other servants are standing up, since they should get her out of her sight right now. The maid then cries out apologetically before Her Majesty, and he asks her to forgive him, but the woman only asks how she dared to hurt her hand. She also wonders when the musicians will arrive, because she needs to change her mood, and the musicians who came recently were quite beautiful. The guy then turns to Her Majesty and claims that, with all due respect, vile rumors are being spread among the people. The woman then asks him what he is doing, after which the young man claims that there are rumors that she calls musicians in order to discreetly enjoy obscenities. Marilyn immediately jumps up from her seat and screams, "Who dares to spread such things and bring them to her? Because they must be punished to the fullest extent." The guy then tells Her Majesty that rumors are usually spread by a large number of people, and without any evidence. The woman then cries out, wondering if he's really trying to talk her out of it now, and maybe he's involved in this too. The guy then replies that, of course not. The woman cries out, wondering if it's because he's the Count's son, and how dare he be so arrogant. Merlin asks if he thinks he can look down on her because she was a commoner, and he calls them, along with Yuri, incompetent and foolish rulers behind their backs. The young man then denies it and never said such a thing, but the woman throws a plate at him and insists she doesn't believe him. After which she tells him everything so that the guy listens carefully, because she may come from a humble family, but now she occupies the highest position in the empire and her son is the emperor, and she is his mother. The guy then says that, and the woman screams for him to go and arrest the one who dares to spread rumors about her, and he won't leave anyone unpunished. At this point, one of the servants runs into the room and shouts that they have a problem. He also claims that they received an urgent message from the palace, as the emperor ordered that they lend it to her immediately. The woman then wonders if this letter is from Yuri, but when she opens it and reads it, then she screams for everyone to quickly pack her things, because she's returning to the capital. One of the servants asks what the lady is screaming about. Is he deaf? He should get ready to leave. The woman also slams her hand on the table and screams, "Did he really write about divorce? And what the hell happened while she was gone?" The main character is heading off in a carriage and sighs. Her brother claims that this sigh could put out a fire and asks what it is. Louise replies that she's just wondering if it would be okay to return home looking like this. Well, the guy claims that he says that she has nothing to worry about, and the only one who worries him is this mother, the Empress, and no one else can say anything. The main character then pronounces the name of the Empress's mother, and thinks that even if she is the Empress's mother, usually the Emperor and Empress have more power. But who is she, and why can't anyone say a word against her? The guy claims that, as he said, his sister shouldn't be afraid, so she shouldn't worry because her father and he will protect her. The main character thinks that this is the problem, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and if the guy is so crazy, then she's afraid to imagine how things are with the Duke. The guy says he definitely didn't tell him he was going to take the girl with him. The main character asks who he's talking about. The guy replies that he's his guest and friend staying at the Videl estate. Louise wonders if a guy with such a personality really has friends, but he replies that he thinks everything will be fine if they don't run into him. At this time, someone says that they can see the castle from there, and the main character asks if it will really be so soon. After which, she looks out the window and asks her brother what it is. He asks what she's talking about since this is their house, and asks if she's already forgotten. The girl then asks if this is really the Vidal castle, and thinks that she had heard that the Vidals were an impressive family, but not to that extent. That's why she can't believe there's a more noble family than the royals, and yet she's the daughter of a rather wealthy one. The guy insists he knew she wouldn't like it there, and he understands that she should look only at beautiful things. Such a cramped and gloomy castle is not at all suitable for her, and maybe he should ask his father to change the appearance of the castle, after which he asks, "How about pink?" But the girl replies that if he didn't answer, she would simply be amazed by this magnificence and could not have imagined that the castle would be so big. But she also claims the castle looks like a wall, after which the guy replies that it is indeed a wall, since the Vidal estate is on the outskirts of Owen. They are close to the border, and it is used to keep out unwanted visitors to the empire. The guy also asks if she sees that mountain behind the castle, because behind it there is a huge plain which is a conflict territory, and further on is the Tristan Empire, which is their neighbor. The main character then asks if that's why the castle was built so dark, and the guy replies that they say it was made so gloomy to hide the traces of fires. Vidals often use their powers unintentionally. And after this, the main character talks about the fire elemental and asks if the guy thinks that she can use these powers. The young man replies that, of course, after all, she is also a Vidal, and the girl then says that then she will be like her brother. But the guy pokes her in the forehead and claims that creating a connection with the elemental is not so easy, because first she will have to go through something. But at that very moment, one of the servants knocks on the carriage door and tells the master that they have arrived and the Duke has come out to greet them. The guy then wonders if he has decided to greet them when he can finally spend time with his sister. After which they are about to go out, but when the girl is thinking about giving her her hand, the guy asks if something is wrong and also if she is not feeling well. Louise replies no, and simply, what if her father doesn't like her? The guy just laughs and asks if she's being serious, saying, quote, "After all, his little sister has a killer sense of humor, so she must be a genius." The servants also say they've never heard anything funnier. After which the main character gets out of the carriage but wonders if there are really flower petals there. After which she sees a multitude of people who greet her and say that they are glad to see her back and welcome her home. Butlers also walk around with banners bearing congratulations on the divorce, and they hope that from now on, her life will be filled with happiness. At this time, the main character looks at another man and thinks what kind of pose this is, and could this really be her father? This man is the head of the Waddell family, Duke Louister Waddell. The main character wonders if everyone was expecting a beautiful reunion between father and daughter, and because of her age, she doesn't want to do it. But she needs a good relationship with the Duke, so the girl immediately runs to her daddy. At that very moment, the man falls to the floor. He also turns to Karan and asks if he heard it, to which the man replies, yes, and he heard it loud and clear. After which the man claims that his daughter just called him daddy. But she was just a baby not long ago, barely able to speak. At this time, the main character wonders if she didn't get married at 8 years old, and where did these memories come from? At this time, the young lady's brother turns to his father and claims that he is forced to upset him because the emperor refused to cooperate, so the girl is not yet formally divorced. The man then gets angry and asks what he's talking about, and the guy insists that that's not all. After all, this emperor shamelessly entered Louise's palace with his mistress and caused a scene, and when he saw Louise fall to the floor in tears, he was completely shocked. At this time, the Duke turns to his daughter and asks if this is true, and the girl realizes that, in fact, she was pretending. After which the man asks how dare such a pathetic brat treat his precious daughter like that. After which he hugs the girl and claims that she no longer has to worry about anything because now her daddy will protect her from everyone. Her brother hugs her from behind and says he does too. Louise almost cries afterward, thinking that she never imagined she'd have a family she could rely on. Her family will always worry about her, even if she's far away. Meanwhile, the girl apologizes and claims she should have arrived sooner. But her brother wonders what she is apologizing for. because it is all because of those damn imperial scum. The young lady's father claims that Louis is right because Louise did nothing wrong and it is his fault, because he should not have sent her there even if it was the emperor's order. But it was worth organizing a rebellion. Just think that he hasn't seen the lady for 10 years, after which the girl says that everything is fine. And now they will all start from scratch, because now only happy days await them. A little while later, the girl enters one of the rooms, and the maid apologizes and also states that the guest room is a bit small, but she asks to wait a little until the evening. The main character looks at this room and wonders if it's a little small, but it's 6 times bigger than the apartment from her previous life. One of the maids claims that the Duke ordered that her room should be the best, so the preparation will take a little longer, but the girl replies that everything is fine, and compared to that terrible palace, this place is just paradise. The maid almost cries after this, and the main character understands that everyone there reacts quite emotionally to any of her words. The maid claims her name is Ameline, and that she is the head maid of the Vidal household. If the lady needs anything, she should not hesitate to ask. Another maid claims her name is Bit, and that she and Katie were appointed as her personal maids. The girl also says it's such an honor to serve the lady, and they've only seen her in portraits before. Louise says she understands and is pleased to meet her. Then the head maid says, "Excellent," and let everyone calm down and get back to work, as Lady Louise must be tired. One of the maids then apologizes, claiming they're just nervous. A little while later, Louise collapses onto the bed and then wraps herself in a blanket. The girl thinks how wonderful this is and understands what a happy ending means. Well, a little while later, the main character wakes up because the wind is blowing, and the girl wonders why the window is open. At this time, someone else turns to her and asks why he is sleeping there. And this is already the 2nd expedition this month, so doesn't he think that he is overloading it? At this time, the main character is wondering who it is, and the man takes off his shirt and says that the guy did visit the capital. After which Louise wonders how he ended up there and what he's doing. The girl thinks it might be an assassin, but then why would he take his clothes off? The guy claims things aren't going so smoothly. After which he reaches for his pants, and the girl thinks that this is not it, after which the guy asks why he is silent, and is there really something wrong, and is he okay, after which the guy addresses her as Louis, and asks why he is silent. But after this, the main character screams for him to move away, but the young man only approaches her, and then he sees that it's not Louis. Louise is about to scream, but the guy covers her mouth. He also apologizes and claims that she most likely won't believe him, but he would like to say that this is all one big misunderstanding, and there is no need to shout. And if she promises not to scream, then he will let her go, after which the guy asks if she will be a good girl. The main character then nods her head in agreement, and the guy says how smart she is. And he also lifts the lady, but as soon as he removes his hand from her mouth, the girl immediately screams. A little while later, the girl's brother bursts into the room and screams what it was and what happened. He also addresses Louise, and the girl then addresses her brother. But when her father and brother see this picture, they are shocked. A little while later, one of the maids asks the lady if she is sure that everything is okay, and how this unprincipled scoundrel will stop breaking into her room. The main character then says that she really is fine, but Beth asks how a lady can be fine because she simply cannot turn a blind eye to this and must deal with it personally. At this time, the Duke tells them to stop because the girls are scaring Louise. After which one of them apologizes to the lady, and the main character replies that everything is fine. After which she also claims that she hasn't seen her brother since the morning and wonders where he disappeared to. The man claims that Louis is the last person to worry about and that he must be busy with some important matters again. The main character asks what these important matters are, and the man replies that they are very important. After which he also says that when the lady finishes eating, she might want to go for a walk with her father, that is, Daddy. To which the girl replies that she is happy and thinks that he is changing the subject so quickly, but she still wonders who that guy was last night. The boy sits tied up and claims he's innocent. But the young lady's brother insists he hasn't asked any questions yet, after which the blonde asks if he wants to put out this fire first. Well, the young lady's brother is not going to do this, after which the blonde smiles. Louis asks if he thinks it's funny and if he really hit his head, to which he replies that no, and that this girl is simply so different from the little girl he remembers. Louis replies that of course, because 10 years have already passed and the man says that the guy is right, it's quite natural that she has changed. But the young lady's brother then asks why the hell he was showing off his body in his sister's room. The boy then asks if that's really what it looked like. The blonde guy insists he saw it himself, that he was scared, and that it was so dark outside that he simply confused the rooms. Louis says he was the only one naked, so he really was scared, to which the guy replies, yes, and does he even think that this girl hates him now? The young lady's brother replies that he doesn't think hate is the right word. Rather, the girl thinks he's a jerk. But, in any case, yesterday was pure chaos, because everyone thought he was a mercenary. And because of him, his father even stood guard outside Luis's room all night, so it was necessary to assign a guard in advance. And he didn't even have time to think about it. After which, he also orders that this guy be untied. The blonde man then claims it's a great idea and wants to do it. The young lady's brother asks what he's talking about, and his interlocutor replies that he will do it and will be Luis's guard. Louis cries out that he will never, ever, and that he's not a fool to let him near Louise. But after this, the blonde tells the guy to remind him who went to the lands of Xi'an to fight magical creatures instead of him for 3 whole months. And he still remembers promising him a wish upon his return, and he could not even imagine that he was the son of the most famous Duke of the Empire. He throws words to the wind. Meanwhile, the Empress returns to the palace and sees her son. And she asks how he can be such an idiot. The guy then turns to his mother, but she insists she told him so. That he could have a mistress, but he shouldn't dare lose Louise. The guy then suggests to his mother that they talk privately, but the woman screams, how can he be distracted by such trifles? After all, he missed such an opportunity, so how dare he call himself an emperor after this? At this time, His Majesty asks his mother to calm down, because everyone is looking at them, and he will fix everything. But the woman then wonders what she should wait for, because let him quickly go and return the Empress to her today, and he will return her no matter how, even if His Majesty has to beg her on his knees and promise never to see his mistress again. At this time, Lyra is thinking why she and Yuri should listen to this, and it's all because of the Empress, so maybe she is the Empress. She behaves in a way that is convenient only for her. She's probably overjoyed right now. The main character is sitting at the table at this moment, and a piece of cake falls on her dress, and after that, the maid asks if the lady is okay. The main character replies that everything is fine and she just dropped it. Then her brother also addresses the girl, and she also asks to allow him to introduce someone to her, and this is the very friend who is staying with them under some circumstances. And from that day on, he will be her guard, after which the main character turns to her brother. And she asks if this isn't that pervert and wonders who he will be to her now, to which the guy replies that it's her security guard. The blonde insists he's looking forward to the opportunity. Serve your lady. A short time later, the protagonist bursts into her father's office, after which he says what Louis said. The man then puts down his papers and claims that he is listening. And she also wonders what Louis told her, because Daddy will take care of everything. After this, the main character thinks why she feels that if she tells him the truth, her brother will have big problems. After which, she claims that Louis ate her cake, so she asks him to scold her and closes the door. The man then stands up and asks how he could. And the main character, walking further down the corridor, realizes that her father was already ready to kill her brother. And she can't let Louis down like that, and so then she herself needs to sort this out completely. A little while later, the blonde man asks what Louise is doing there, and the girl wonders if he seriously doesn't understand. The guy at this time claims that it is quite dangerous and asks if she could come down, but the girl replies that no way, and thinks that it was because of him that she tried to avoid him. While she was looking for her brother, he followed her closely, and in the end, the last place she could run was to climb a tree. At this point, the guy sits down under him and says that it's okay, so let the lady sit there as long as she wants, and he will sit and rest for now. After this, the main character wonders if he is really gone and why did she even climb up there, since she dug her own grave. Louise also approaches this guy and claims that he said that they are friends with her brother and is interested in what connects them. The guy claims that he owes him his life, and the main character asks if her brother owes him his life. To which he replies that it is, on the contrary, and the girl thinks, who would have thought that Louis would help someone But she also wonders why he would help this pervert. The blonde then claims he knows what she's thinking, and she clearly misunderstood him because he simply got into the wrong room in the dark. Louise then asks why he came in through the window, because if he had just come in through the door, everything would have looked more or less normal. After all, the more she thinks about it, the stranger the whole situation seems, so the girl asks if he is really friends with her brother. The guy then tells her to ask the butler if she doesn't believe him, and Louise thinks that since her irritable brother recommended him, she should lie down. Then this all could really be a misunderstanding. And the girl asks how they met. The blonde man claims he was in an accident while being chased near the Waddell estate, and his family betrayed him, and if the Vadels hadn't found him then, they probably wouldn't be talking now. The main character thinks it's surprising that he talks about it with a smile, and claims that it must be very difficult. The guy replies that if he didn't answer, he would be used to being hated, and it would be easier to just give up and not rely on anyone. Well, the main character replies that she doesn't think so, because it would be both shameful and offensive to give up. She's also sure there's always someone who will help, even a pervert. Well then, she says, more accurately, someone who will always have your back. The guy then asks if she really thinks so, to which the girl replies that, of course, the whole world is huge, and then the blonde guy asks what about her and maybe she'll cover for him. The main character then asks if she can ask. She also tells him not to misunderstand her, but asks why he talks to her as if they were friends, especially when he expressed a desire to be her knight, after which the young man smiles, and the main character wonders if he is laughing at her. The guy claims his lady is the first person to turn down such a proposal, so isn't she just his friend's little sister now? The girl then says she thinks that's okay. After which the guy says that since she refused, there is nothing he can do. Just don't be offended by Louis because of this, because he himself insisted on being her knight, and then the guy says that it's time for him to go. The main character wonders if he is leaving, and understands that if she had known that he would leave so easily, she would not have even climbed in there. The blonde claims that he doesn't want to force her to do something she doesn't want to do. But at that very moment, he hears some explosions, and when he turns around, he sees that it is the young lady's brother. Meanwhile, Louis apologizes to the girl for everything. The main character is surprised by this, and when another explosion occurs, the tree begins to shake, after which the young lady completely falls off it, and also wonders if she really escaped plunging into eternal sleep due to overwork. To end her life like this from a fall, well, then the girl realizes someone caught her. And when she opens her eyes, she sees a blonde man in front of her, who says that he caught her. He also asks if the girl has hurt herself somewhere. She replies that she hasn't and thanks him. The guy then claims that he is glad that she is okay, and the young lady's brother immediately runs up and asks how Louise is. After all, she fell out of the tree because of him. Afterwards, the girl tells him to calm down and asks if he sees that she's alive and it wasn't because of him. The young man immediately hugs his sister and apologizes because he scared her without really explaining anything. Louise replies that everything is fine and that he should forgive her for yelling and running away. The guy then replies that no, and that he was the one who introduced her to someone like him as a knight, so it's no wonder she reacted that way. After this, the main character looks at the blonde man and then runs up to him and tells him to wait. The girl says that it's okay, and now she believes him because he's not a pervert. She also apologizes for misunderstanding and for running away from him, because her brother trusts him. And she does the same, after which the guy asks if it's true and if she's sure she won't regret it. The main character asks what he's talking about, after which she smiles at the guy and also asks if she's going to take her words back. And he's really looking forward to serving his lady. The girl is a little surprised by this. A little while later, they are already sitting at the table, and the young lady claims that she never asked his name. After which she asks what his name is, but then everyone falls silent, and the girl asks if this is really such a difficult question. The blonde then claims that names are not that important, and the young lady's brother replies that names are just a formality and they do not play a special role. Well, then the main character says that he should also stop calling her by her first name. However, the young man is only surprised by this. The girl then says that she doesn't understand why he is so desperately trying to call her by her name, which is not so important. And he asks why he shouldn't call her whatever he wants, and whether that isn't a reckless approach to life. After all, he has a name that his parents gave him, so why not just say it? Well, Well, then the young lady suddenly falls silent and realizes that she hadn't even meant to, and was just adding insult to injury. And that's why her brother was spouting this nonsense about names not mattering, because he was just trying to help his friend. Louise doesn't realize that her brother is a much better person than she thought. After which, the girl asks if she can call her brother BB, since it is a diminutive, affectionate name for an older brother, but her father replies that she cannot. After all, people would think she lacked sophistication if a grown lady addressed her brother so casually, and simply brother or Louis would be enough. The main character then says that it's okay, and she will do as her father says, and she has gotten out of the habit of doing this because she hasn't been home for so long. The man then tells the lady to wait. But she can continue calling him daddy, but the girl also insists that she should address him formally and tells her father that she will remember this. After which, the lady looks at this guy and understands that he still needs a name, and after all, it is from her nights. She will have to turn to him often. Well, this guy reminds her of someone, even his hair looks similar. However, the girl understands right away that in fact, they really do look alike, but if you look closely, his hair is more golden. And his violet eyes are deeper, and she would even say that he is her type. After which, the girl states that she thinks a name starting with the letter R would suit him. She also thinks about names that start with Neri and comes up with the name Renadro. The blonde then says that this is what she needs, and she can just call him Reen. Well, the young lady's father at this time asks to be allowed to ask when the two of them became such friends that Louise even came up with a name for him. The girl then senses a dark atmosphere from her father, but insists that they have decided that Reen will be her knight today. The boy then rises and replies that he is, and he also vows to serve his lady faithfully and truly. The man then asks who this guy will be, and whether he will be Louise's personal knight. He also wonders why he is only hearing about this now, and turns to his son and almost calls the blonde man's name. But he claims that he is Reen and asks to speak freely, to which the man agrees, and also tells them to quickly go to his office. The man also turns to his daughter and tells her to stay, and when she finishes eating, let her return to her place, to which the girl agrees. And the Duke at this time once again turns to his daughter and says that Dad one day. This is Dad forever. The main character then says with a smile that she'll see Dad later. And when he leaves, one of the maids claims she thought she was going to suffocate and asks what happened. And the ladies are amazed. They all just held their breath. The main character asks if this is true, and realizes that her father and brother can truly make anyone feel like they're in a vice. But she's already gotten used to it, so it's actually comforting. The girl also asks if they could bring dessert to her room, to which they agree. And Louise thinks how long it's been since she's been alone. And it's so wonderful there that she's completely forgotten that her divorce is still in progress. She needs to finish it now, while society and the whole situation are on her side. The young lady's father at this time turns to the two and tells them to explain themselves. He turns to his son and asks why he chose this guy as a guard for Louise without his permission. Louis claims the guy threatened him, but his father then asks if he taught him to behave like that. The young lady's brother claims that even though the guy threatened him, he's actually a good choice for his sister. The man asks why, and the young man claims that the Empress mother was sitting quietly in Kashin, but quickly returned to the capital upon hearing the news about Louise, and she will do everything in her power to bring the girl back. Because sister is the one who can hide all the Emperor's flaws regarding the legitimacy of the succession to the throne. At this time, the Duke asks if the guy wants to say that he has appointed a worthy man to the post of guarding Louise. At this time, the blonde tells his grace that he asked, because soon the imperial family will begin to put pressure on Videl. The man wonders if this is a guess about a member of the imperial family. He also realizes that the boy is the first prince of the empire, and whose name is Regan Klaus Owen. The boy claims he hasn't been called by his first name in a long time, and it's not that he dislikes it, but he's grateful to the Duke for saving his life, and also for risking his life to keep him safe. The man then says that there is no need for gratitude, and that he is in his debt to him, to which he replies that of course he understands. And he also knows that on the day Louise comes of age, he plans to lead the rebellion with him on the front lines. When the imperial family took away their precious daughter and younger sister, the Waddell family closed themselves off and did nothing, so people began to ask questions. Some said that the Duke had given up everything because of the loss of his daughter, while others believed that he was waiting for the right moment for revenge. But over the course of 10 years, people gradually lost interest in all this, and the story was forgotten. Unaware that the Vidal family harbors immense power, the young man insists it won't be easy to obtain a divorce from the emperor, but a change of ruler could be a good excuse to get his daughter back. After which, the guy also remarks on how typical it is for the Vidals to consider changing the government for their daughter's sake. The man then asks why they are still there knowing all this, to which the guy replies, because what he wants is to be used because the two of them are not the only ones who care about Louise, and let them not forget it. The guy understands that if he can rescue Louise from this terrible place, then he would not mind being used. And ever since that day, he had been waiting to meet Louise. But she had fled the palace before they had even come for her. The young lady's father at this time asserts that he would still like to forget it, and the girl's brother also replies that he agrees, because they will pretend that they did not hear it. Well, at that very moment, someone runs into the room and shouts that news has arrived from the palace. After all, they demand that they immediately return the Empress. The man only becomes angry after this and burns the letter. After which, the butler tells his grace that it's a letter from the palace, but the man replies that it wasn't him, but Louis. The man then replies that he actually thought they were united, so how can his father blame him? The man claims that after what they did to his daughter, they still dare to ask for her back, so have they really gone completely crazy? The young lady's brother agrees and claims that even if they begged, they would not return the girl, and now that the Empress mother has returned, they want to take on Louise again. The man claims that their actions are unforgivable, and he will not allow them to get away with it, after which Louis raises his hand. He also says he has a good friend in the palace. The man is shocked after this, and he wonders if his son really has a friend, after which he even asks what this plan is. A little while later, one of the servants looks into the chancellor's office and asks if he is there. Afterwards, he sees the man and documents all over the room. Rule then asks what's going on, but the servant is frightened by his appearance and asks if he's okay. However, the boy asks if he looks okay, after which the servant hands over a letter and claims that it is from the Vidal estate, and this letter was ordered to be delivered directly to him, after which the man looks at it and it says it's from Louis. The young lady's brother, meanwhile, asks in the letter if he'll drop by, after which the chancellor smiles at him and laughs out loud. He rises from his seat. After which, she takes out a piece of paper and says that it is somewhere there, and finally, it is time to use it. One of the servants then asks the chancellor where he is going, since he has so much work. But the man, with a smile on his face, replies that he is going to see the emperor. A little while later, the blonde man asks what he said, and also tells Rule Filbert to repeat it. The guy claims that he is resigning as chancellor, after which His Majesty screams out what this means. The guy then apologizes, but claims that he can't stand it anymore. And the emperor remembers how the main character said that she can't stand it anymore, so let her be overthrown. He also understands that they've been drowning in work since Louise left. Yuri has been raised like a second prince since childhood, and he couldn't even think about becoming an emperor, because in the end the heir was better. This place never belonged to him, and he was never prepared for such a role or interested in it, so for him it was insurmountable. He did not stop studying, even though it was already late, and people, dissatisfied with his competence, began to express their concerns. After her marriage, Louise began studying imperial affairs and soon took over this responsibility entirely from Yuri. As if that's what she was supposed to do, and if at least one sacrifices himself, then everyone else can be calm and happy. And maybe that's why they say that you don't miss water until the well runs dry. Without Louise, and even without the Chancellor of the Empire, the end will come, so the man says that he will not allow it. After which he also claims that he knows how hard the job of Chancellor is, but if he shows a little patience. At this time, Rule says that he may not allow it, because it will not change anything, and he apologizes, but he concluded his employment contract with the previous emperor, so now it is invalid. He also says that it doesn't matter even if he orders him to stay. After which, the guy asks if His Majesty knows why he started working in the palace. He had an agreement with the previous emperor, and as he knows in Owen, those born after the second son cannot be considered heirs, and are simply not recognized. So the first and second heirs were lucky enough to enjoy all the privileges of heirs. And all those born after do not even deserve to be considered members of the family. and there are 5 children in his family. He is the second child, and he also has 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. The Filberts are a rare example of a worthy family, as they are a very close-knit family with a large number of children. But because of this rule, his other 2 sons were forced to enter a monastery. The boy also claims that his parents face this dilemma every day. They love all their sons equally, so they didn't want to send anyone to the Mind of Cheese, but he instantly attracted the attention of the emperor. As the second son, he was a potential heir, but since he worked in the palace, the third son had every right to take his place. But the fourth son still remained on the sidelines, so he made a deal with the emperor. He swore allegiance to him and dedicated himself entirely to the empire in exchange for status for his brother. However, as soon as His Majesty Yuri ascended the throne, this treaty expired, and his loyalty was exclusively to the former emperor. The blonde then wonders why the chancellor is only speaking about this now, given that so much time has passed since he ascended the throne. The guy claims that he still thought about it from time to time, looking back. He thinks that he has crossed all boundaries, because he couldn't even leave his dear friend's little sister there alone. The guy understands that, of course, he couldn't talk to her directly or help her, but he could at least help a little from behind the scenes. At this time, the emperor asks who this dear friend's little sister is, after which he asserts that this cannot be, and the guy says that now that the Empress has safely left this place, there is no need for him to stay there any longer. His Majesty then tells the Chancellor to wait and asks what he should do if he leaves now. But Rule claims that they only appreciate it when they lose it, and at this point he deviates, and also thanks for everything and wishes His Majesty good luck. At this time, the main character says that then it's great, and she will choose the lovers who will be allowed into the Flower Palace. One of the maids then asks what she was talking about, and whether she really said anything about lovers. The girl thinks it's a wonderful plan and super effective. But then someone else turns to the lady and asks what she just said. The girl then turns to Reen, to which he responds. But the main character asks if he thinks he's too close. Reen replies that usually all the guards keep such a distance, after which the main character tells him to move back 10 steps and the Imperial guards should not get so close, to which the guy replies that she is probably mistaken. And the main character thinks why he continues to stand over her soul, because he only moved away a little. At this time, the guy points to the gifts and asks if the Emperor sent them. The protagonist replies that it seems so. In the letter, he wrote that he misses Louise. But now the main character asks what kind of nonsense this is, after which she thinks that he never said such a thing. She also tells Ameline to send it all back, to which the maid agrees, and the girl also tells her to burn the sheet. And if she tells her brother about this, he will definitely burn it to the ground. The blonde claims that the girl is similar and really hates the Emperor, and replies that that is why she is getting a divorce. While he asks what she plans to do after the divorce, the main character thinks so, judging by how her father and brother treat her. She wonders if she can stay there after the divorce, and she thinks it would be a wonderful future. The girl claims that she would like to rest first, and the blonde man asks if she plans to get married again. Louise replies that not now, but in the future, who knows? Because life is unpredictable. And if she ever meets someone she truly loves, the blonde asks if she has an ideal partner. To which the girl replies that she has no special questions, and perhaps someone a little rich with a little power. A little handsome, and so that he could listen to her a little. Reen tells the lady that putting a little before each request doesn't make her modest. To which the girl replies that it's okay and she has high standards, after which she asks what's wrong with Togo. The guy replies that he thinks she can find someone to her liking, and the main character insists that there's something else. After all, she doesn't want to get involved with the royal eyebrows even under the pretext of plunging into eternal sleep, and she doesn't care if it's even for close relatives. The guy then asks why, and the lady replies that she has already suffered enough, and nothing good can be expected from the royals. The young man then says that not everyone is like that, and the girl replies that she is fed up with them to take such a risk. Louise realizes that it was just an excuse, and frankly, it was all because of that prophecy. The person who can get her will become the ruler of the entire continent, and she said a close relative. More precisely, Yuri Klaus, who is the only close relative of the royals, which means that everyone else is just relatives. When the prophecy comes true, they will not leave her alone, and she does not want to be used anymore. The girl then says that the prophecy is truly the biggest problem right now. She also asks what Rin thinks about it, and will he be able to bribe the priests? The young man then tells his lady to wait and asks how the conversation got to this point. While he simply pauses for a moment, Louise replies that this is the easiest decision, after which the guy claims that he has no doubt that she really is Videl, because it is very brave of her. Recently, she even considered lovers. At this point, the main character turns to the head maid and asks her to bring the orders. But she wonders if the lady really said that for a reason, and also if she is seriously going to do it, and to someone else he replies that of course. And he wonders if the lady thinks she's joking, and whether she should start by recruiting lovers for the Flower Palace. The maid claims there have been a lot of requests, and the main character says that this is it, and frankly speaking, she herself did not expect that there would be so many of them, but perhaps it is because of the tempting salary. Well, then one of them says that either they are all in love with the lady, after which the girl says that maybe it's worth taking 10 to start with, and she needs to take this to the point of madness to get a divorce. Of course, she has no intention of doing anything with her lovers, but it is important to put them on display, after which the main character realizes that the blonde has become quiet, and she wonders if he is also interested and will agree to become her lover. The guy then says that everything is fine because he already agreed, and the main character asks what he agreed to, and he answers that it was to be her lover. Louise wonders why he does this, and of course attracting lovers is just a formality, as well as a tool to destroy a reputation, so anyone will do. But he's his brother's only friend, and also her knight. Rin is a longtime guest at the Videl house, which means she'll see him every day when she returns home after the divorce. Even the thought of it depresses her. So, no matter what happens, this man is out of the picture. Well then, the girl thinks she doesn't even know his real name, and she asks what his real name is, after which he claims that he would not like to tell her because if he tells her, she will cross him off the list. The main character realizes that it is her fault that she arranged this stupid test, allowing the information to remain confidential. The guy at this time asks why he can't become her lover, to which the girl replies that it's obvious because he is a friend of his brother and it's so awkward. A guy from the church, a neighbor and friend of the main character's brother, asks if he knew that a girl should never trust these three. The young man then asks what a church is, and the girl replies that it doesn't matter, because in any case his brother's friend is not on the list. After which the guy tells his lady that he will step away for a minute, and the main character asks if it is really so unexpected, to which he replies that he's going to break off his friendship with Louis. Louise wonders if he's in his right mind and screams at him to wait, after which she grabs the guy and claims that he can't because her brother no longer has friends. And if he loses him too, what should he do? After which the blonde smiles and says that it's good. And what about making a bet? After all, she said earlier that she would choose about 10 lovers. And if he's not among the 10 she chooses, he'll gracefully retreat. The main character then asks the head maid how many requests there are for something, and she replies that there are 107. The girl understands that the chances are obviously small, but it's almost 1 in 10 and it seems worth trying. Well, the guy then takes the young lady's hand and says that if he is among the 10 she chooses, then she will make him her dearest lover because he wants to be loved by her. The main character is embarrassed by this and wonders if he is really confessing now or teasing her. But the girl also wonders if she is getting ahead of herself, because she needs to think less about this. And he is too calm to perceive his words as a confession. But he is too affectionate to take it as a joke, and that is why the girl thinks that it is driving her crazy, but she still understands that it is not important now. However, looking at the chances, she would like to take the risk, after which she states that she accepts his challenge. The guy claims that she made a promise and cannot take her words back. The girl replies that he does too. Then she turns to the head maid and tells her to weed out all the applicants from Videl and send them to her, which she must agree to. The girl understands that Rin has been living in the Videl house for quite a long time, so it is obvious that he applied from there and she won. Well then the maid tells the lady that there is one strange thing, because there is not a single application from Videl, which surprises the young lady and claims that this is impossible. But the maid replies that she is serious, because let the lady look at the list from the Flower Palace. The main character understands that there really is no one there, but she thinks how this can be, and the guy claims that she will not go back on her words. The maid claims that the only application from the Zenoa region is located in the farthest north, but none from the central regions including Videl and neighboring territories. The maid at this time claims that he could not send an application from there because Zenoa is a conflict area and the city is completely secluded. It's a wild land, so there are still a lot of monsters there, and outsiders often avoid this land, and if rumors about it have spread even in such a place, then the capital must be in chaos. The main character then thinks about what to do with this, but then she sees in the application that there is a special note that the guy has been unrequitedly in love with a girl for 10 years. Louise wonders how he can want to be her lover when he himself is in love with another. But then something suddenly dawns on her, and she realizes it might work. She thinks he must have applied for the reward listed on the recruitment page, and then it will be much easier to figure things out if there is a clear understanding of what they are both striving for. After which the main character tells the head maid to leave this application as a potential candidate. Well, when the main character turns to the blonde, she realizes that something is shaking and thinks that he is probably worried. And that's true, because she needs to look not for Reen, but for the one he definitely cannot be, after which the girl suggests going to the next candidates. A little while later, the girl is already wondering if she can go to church tomorrow. Her brother asks why she went there so suddenly, and she replies that she thought she should pray for the approaching event. Louise understands that she is trying to stop the prophecy before it is too late, but argues that, all the more so, doesn't she need the temple's permission regardless of whether she gets married or divorced? Her father says that getting their permission is just a formality, but it's not worth antagonizing the church. The girl says that, and that's why she wants to take advantage of the opportunity to get a little closer. The man then asks how she plans to do this, and the girl replies that it is obviously with the help of small gifts. After which the young lady's father asks if the butler heard, to which he answers his grace that yes, and he heard that this lady looked very much like the Duke. The man then said, how could it be otherwise if she was his daughter and he was so proud of her? The man also tells Louise not to worry because he will prepare such gifts that all the priests will fall for it, but the girl says that he shouldn't. At that moment, one of the servants runs into the room and cries out, "His Grace!" and that an urgent message has arrived from the palace. The Duke then asks again if they are still tired, but then the servant claims that the Empress sent this for Lady Louise, to which the man cries out that he doesn't care who it's from, because it's still from the palace, so let him give him this letter already. Well, then the blonde guy says that's enough, and he understands their feelings perfectly, but the letter was sent to Lady Louise, so it's up to her to decide what to do with it. The guy then says it's better to just burn the trash and read the regular gossip rags. The main character rises from her seat and says that's enough, let them give her the letter and she can read it herself. The girl also claims that she's finished her meal and asks for forgiveness, as she needs to prepare for the temple tomorrow. Then the young lady's brother and father say that they will take her home, but the girl replies that she is able to walk to her room on her own and that they should continue their dinner. Louise leaves the room and thinks, who knows what might happen if they all sit down together to read this, and before that there was that incident with the letters, so it seems something is happening between her and her mother, the Empress. She is also interested in what this woman wrote there, but when the girl opens the letter, it is written that she hopes Louise has not forgotten about Tommy's place. When the girl sits on her bed, she understands that she thought there would be something important there since they said it was urgent. But then she wonders what kind of place this is, because before taking it as a threat, she needs to understand what it is. And what kind of relationship did this woman have with Louise? The maid said it was nothing special. One of them claimed that before the Empress Mother went on vacation, the lady often drank tea with her in the Empress Mother's courtyard. The girl understands that they have a good enough relationship to get together at least 3 times a week, and she was the only person in the palace who cared about Louise. The ideal mother-in-law, looking after the Empress, takes the place of the incompetent emperor. Then the main character thinks why she stole her letters, and the rather strange behavior of that servant in the palace of the Empress's mother. After all, she behaved in a way that was forbidden to behave with the Empress, and seemed to look down on her. Now the main character sighs and also thinks that she doesn't understand anything, but now it's time to think about the temple. After all, she will deal with this after she forces the temple to remain silent, and so there will be nothing for her to be afraid of. Even if the Empress mother considers her a weak fool, she will simply destroy her ideas about herself, because she is not the same Louise that she was before. A little while later, the young lady comes out in a carriage and says that it would be great if her father and brother would go with them. But the guy then asks what to do, since they are both busy, and the girl thinks that he is clearly happy about this. That morning, one of the servants burst into the room and told his lordship that they had problems at the northern border wall. If it weren't for the butler, they wouldn't have been able to leave. But the knight claims that, of course, he likes it better this way. But at least he prepared a gift, and he probably doesn't have much time for that. The main character then asks if he knows what's inside, to which the guy replies no, and he wonders if she knows too, but if the Duke prepared this, then it's definitely something special. The man then claimed the priests would be furious, and the main character claims that's why she's worried. And maybe it's just her imagination, but she heard some strange sound inside, after which Rin suggests looking inside, but the girl replies that she doesn't answer. Dad said not to open until she arrives. At this time, the guy notices the temple and claims that using magical transport saves a lot of time. The Pantheon Temple is also known as the Central Temple. They will have to walk from the main entrance, as carriages cannot cross the temple's boundaries, after which they approach the entrance. And the guy takes a mask out of his pocket and puts it on. The main character asks him why, and he replies that he feels a little awkward when people look at him. The girl wonders what he is talking about, but then she thinks that she really did feel uneasy from his appearance and could really cover it up better. At this time, the guy sees people coming out and claims that it turns out that the morning prayer has already ended. He also tells the lady to be careful and not get caught in the crowd, but the girl tells him to think better of himself. But then the crowd separates the two, and the main character still pushes her way through to Rin. After which he grabs his hand and claims that this mask covers everything for him. She also asks if he is really her guard, because she can't understand who is protecting whom and suggests that they hurry. The guy then tells his lady to wait, and when they move on, all the people watch them. As the two walk through the temple, people whisper, and the protagonist wonders why they've been staring at her since the entrance. She also doesn't think it's because she's the Empress, but when he looks at these people, he wonders why they're blushing. At that moment, someone else turns to Lady Louise and says that that statue over there is the goddess below, one of the 3 gods of the Owen Empire. The main character says that this is how she understands them. They've been just walking there for an hour, wondering when they'll finally meet the high priest. Rin, too, is unusually quiet. Meanwhile, the temple worker claims there are only 3 gods on the continent. One of them is Baloa, he controls time and the earthly world. The second is Vankat. He rules death and the underworld. The last god is Belo, who rules the future and fate. The main character then says that the other 2 are responsible for the earthly and underground kingdoms, but wonders why only Belo controls fate. Then the priest replies that this is because Belo is responsible for the heavenly kingdom, and this connection, given by heaven, is why Belo is known as the one who decides the destinies of all people. The woman also turns to Lady Louise and asks if she saw that sacred line in front of the entrance to the temple. And by crossing this line, she entrusts her fate to Belo, so she must cross it alone. Each person has their own destiny, and therefore, if a man and a woman cross this line and hold hands, then, according to legend, their destinies will be connected. They will never part and will definitely fall in love with each other, after which the main character is shocked, and she wonders what they're talking about, since she walked hand in hand with this guy. Meanwhile, the woman insists that even lovers should cross the Belo line separately unless they're engaged or married. And crossing the line means the lovers vowed to be together forever. The main character now understands why everyone was staring at them. And after all, the Empress, who is still married, she crosses this line by holding hands with another man, and in the eyes of others, they look like they are in love, so the girl understands that this explains everything. She also looks at Rin and understands that he is embarrassed, but people seem to think that Rin is acting this way because he is embarrassed. But he's simply laughing his ass off. At this point, the Illuminated One turns to Her Majesty and asks if she can inquire about her relationship with that gentleman. The main character understands that it was because of him that she was now going on about Belo's whole background, and the girl claims that he is just her personal knight. The woman then says it's forbidden love between a lady and her ever-present knight. The girl replies that they only recently met, and he asks if it's too ironic to discuss forbidden love in such a place, after which the priest apologizes and claims that she got a little carried away. Louise wonders if this is really a temple and not some kind of sect, because how can a priest be involved in forbidden love? After which, she whispers to the knight that he knew about it and didn't tell her. But the guy then says that he thought that she knew about it and was doing it on purpose, because she likes him so much, and he politely played along with her. After which he asks what they should do. After all, they crossed the line together. After that, Louise only tells him to wait with her, because she'll tell her brother everything and she needs to change her personal knight. Well, then the high priest enters the room and greets Her Majesty, and also states that he is the high priest of this temple. The man claims he's honored the lady visited them in person, but he wonders what happened there and what's causing the people's strange behavior. Louise replies that everything is fine, as they're all very kind to her. After which, the high priest claims that he received her letter and therefore asks her to pass. The girl does so, but when she goes further, she sees a nice interior and realizes that she thought they were throwing all their efforts into serving the gods. After which, they sit down over a cup of tea, and the girl suggests getting straight to the point, because she has a request. Soon the temple will receive a prophecy related to her, after which the man is surprised. The young lady claims she wants to change it a little. The high priest asks what that means, and claims he doesn't understand, also wondering how the lady learned about the prophecy. Well, the girl claims that it's better for him not to know, and whether he believes it or not, it doesn't matter to her. So let him just remember that if the temple receives a prophecy in the next 3 months, she wants everything to be done according to her wishes. The man then apologizes and claims that it will be difficult, and the main character realizes that she did not think there would be problems. The high priest argues that even if her words are true, it is illegal to go against God and change the prophecy. The girl then claims that this is not what she is talking about, and that she does not want to change the text of the prophecy, but simply wants everyone to know about it. Louise, of course, knew that changing the prophecy was illegal, because in the past, when it was affected, there were frequent wars. The kings used the prophecy as proof that they were the rightful rulers. This led to a decline in trust in the temples. From then on, laws were passed prohibiting the falsification of prophecies, and this rule applied even to kings. The girl then claims that changing the text of the prophecy is illegal, but can't they remain silent during the day? To which the man replies that it is so, and the girl understands that in fact many of the royals were not particularly keen on revealing to everyone the prophecies that were unfavorable for them, and now she claims that for the temple, this would also be a good deal. The guy then places the box on the table, and the girl claims that it is a small token of appreciation from her father. The high priest then states that he is interested in what the duke could have prepared, and the main character replies that, to be honest, she herself doesn't know yet, after which she tells Rain to show them and the guy agrees. Then he opens the box, and the girl sees jewelry inside. The main character realizes she knew it would be a bribe, but she didn't want him to actually have the jewelry ready. How banal. After this, the priest cries out, "Is this really all his fault? He's never seen so many elemental crystals." One of them claims that the shine and purity came out of the expected quality, and they are all of a special class, and the highest class that the temple currently owns is Class B. And there are so many of them, the main character wonders if these are elemental crystals. She's only seen them in pictures before, so this is the first time she's seen them in person. The girl whispers to her knight whether they are really that valuable, to which he replies that just one stone can be compared to the annual income of some noble family. The main character is surprised by this, and the guy claims that even with that kind of money, it's hard to get it. Louise wonders how this small stone can be so valuable, and the priest claims that the duke sent a very generous gift. Therefore, it would be impolite to refuse, and they accept it with great gratitude. But the girl then claims that she thinks she has not received an answer worthy of this gift, and he asks the high priest if that is the case, and after that the man is silent, and the lady rises from her seat and states that she thinks she has nothing more to say to them. It's even sad because she hoped that they would have a warmer relationship, after which the man screams at her to wait. And he claims that he will accept her proposal, after which the main character claims that this is a wise decision, and thinks that she should have agreed from the beginning. A little while later, she is already heading out in a carriage and claims that it was difficult, but at least this issue is now resolved. And since now the prophecy will not be revealed, she can calmly take care of her divorce. Of course, she will still have to regularly keep an eye on the priests, but now she at least knows their weak points, so there shouldn't be any problems. At this time, Rin asks the lady how she learned about the prophecy, to which she replies that it is a company secret. But the young man then says, okay, let her tell at least what the prophecy says, because she knows what it's about, and that's why she doesn't want it to be made public. The main character claims that he is smart, but it is still a secret, to which the guy replies that she has many secrets. But the girl asks if he has any secrets that he can't tell, after which he remains silent and also claims that the lady is tired, so let her rest, because they will not arrive soon. Louise thinks that he also has his own secrets, and Rasul is in the same boat, so it would be polite to pretend that she doesn't understand anything. The girl also tells him to wake her up when they arrive, to which the guy replies that she shouldn't worry. After which the girl almost falls asleep, and the guy asks when he can tell her his secret. After which the main character falls asleep, but at the same moment finds herself in some room. She thinks what is happening, and isn't this place the Vidal Castle, and the girl wonders if they have already arrived. The lady also understands that something is wrong, because she is in the corridor and wonders where Rin is, and whether she is sleepwalking. But at that very moment, someone runs past the young lady, and the girl tells the child to wait. She starts running after the baby and says that she is very small, but too fast. Then the lady sees how this girl turns around, and then opens the door and wonders if she doesn't see her. At this time, the little girl enters the room, lights a candle, and claims that she has arrived. The young man then turns around and asks if it is Louise, and if she is there again, to which the girl replies that yes. After which she puts her hand on the guy's forehead and asks if he feels okay. Ryan replies that now that she is there, then yes, and the girl asks if this is true, because if so, then she will come every day. Well, then the guy says that the Duke will scold her, and the girl replies that this is not true because Daddy is never angry with her. The blonde then asks why Louise always comes there, to which the girl replies that it's because he's bored alone. Ryan asks if she is there because of him, to which the girl replies that of course. After which he even claims his hair shines just like the moon. The guy asks if she's talking about the moon, after which the girl asks if he doesn't like the moon and if he prefers the sun. Ryan replies that if he doesn't answer, he doesn't like the sun because it's too high, which means everyone will only look at it. The girl then says that he is so shy and then let him be the moon and only she will look at him. The young man asks if she will look at him, after which the lady replies that yes. And then he says that from now on he will also look only at her, and they will always look at each other. A little while later, the main character opens her eyes and sees that blonde hair in front of her again. At this point, the blonde asks if she's awake and slept well. The girl doesn't answer and just looks at him. The guy then asks if the lady is not well, but she only grabs him by the clothes. She asks if they've met before. The guy then asks why she's asking so suddenly, after which she replies that it doesn't matter, and it just seemed to her that she'd called him something strange before. The girl also wondered if it was just a dream or a memory of Louise's. But now it was only her body. That's why the girl thinks, what's going on? Because this was never mentioned in the book. The blonde man turns to Louise, but at that very moment, someone points a sword at his neck. It turns out that it's the main character's brother, and he's interested in what they're doing there. The main character then tells her brother to wait with his ball and calm down, and to lower it slowly. The guy then takes the sword and apologizes, and also claims that it is just a habit. But he still wonders what they're doing. After which, the blonde says that they're doing exactly what he thinks they're doing. He also wonders what then and whether the guy will really burn his hair, but he wonders whether Rin really thinks that he can't. After which, the guy puts the lady on the ground, and the main character tells Louis to calm down. Well, the young man wonders how he can be calm, because some freak is flirting with his sister, and even burning all his hair won't be enough. Louise wonders if he has something against people's hair, and if it's not normal to solve everything this way. The main character claims that Rin just took her from you because she was very tired, and nothing special. But Louis asks why they were so close to each other then, to which the girl replies that it was because Rin irritated her a lot and she grabbed him by the collar. The young lady's brother, meanwhile, says he likes it better this way. He also wonders if his little sister taught those holy men a lesson. The girl replies that yes, and she put them in their place. Louis claims it's a shame he wasn't there, because their knees buckle at the sight of him. At this time, the main character thinks that this is bad because Louis interrupted them right in the middle of an important conversation. The young lady's brother says that's true, and speaking of elemental crystals, he suggests they go tomorrow. Louise asks where, and her brother replies that she did say that she wanted to take possession of the elemental in the Philiadet mine. Louise asks if she can use magic too, to which the guy replies that of course, since she is from their family. He's also sure she'll have a fire elemental too. That would be great, and he could give her advice if they shared the same elemental. The young lady realizes that she's been so wrapped up in this prophecy that she's completely forgotten about the elementals, but that's so cool. A short time later, the main character claims that she was distracted by this elemental crystal and again forgot to talk to the moon. One of the maids asks if the lady really wants to make a wish for something, is silent for a while, and also thinks how a person who came from another world can remember something that was not in the book. The girl also wonders if this is strange or normal. Typically, in such stories, the visitor is building their personal life, and then the girl even says that maybe she herself will disappear, her soul being absorbed by the body of Louise Vidal. At this time, one of the maids turns to the lady in surprise, and she cries out that either her soul is gradually merging with Louise, and that is why she remembers all these memories. One of the maids at this time says that the lady looks very tired, and the other says that she probably suffered enough from the priests in the temple. At this time, Louise claims that we need to find out the reason, and maybe it's all because of stress. The head maid turns to the lady and insists that she should retire early today and rest. This tea will help her calm her body and mind. Louise thanks the maid, but understands that if they are going to the mine tomorrow, they should try to talk to the moon along the way. At this time, Lyra is stopped by guards and one of them apologizes, and also claims that the emperor is currently busy. The girl insists she's quick and asks if she can just pop in for a second. The man replies he's sorry, but he can't. After which the girl, with tears in her eyes, claims that she hasn't seen him for a week. Then she heads back with the maids, and one of them tells the lady not to worry because the emperor is probably very busy now and he hasn't forgotten about her. When he sorts out all his affairs, one of the maids will definitely visit her, and she also claims that she is right, because she heard that things are not going well for him right now. So it seems the Empress was doing a lot of work. But then another maid motions for the girl to be quiet. Another maid speaks and asks the lady if she heard that rumor about the Empress. After all, just a few days ago, the Chancellor resigned from the Imperial Palace. After which the girl asks, "What's wrong with Togo? The entire empire knows about it." But the maid claims that she heard from his assistant that immediately after this, the Chancellor headed to the Waddell house. Then someone claims that it's the Empress's family, but why would he go there? Then someone else says that her colleague should wait, because the Empress is at home now. Then another maid asks only not to say that the Empress specially called the Chancellor. After this, Lyra asks how she could do such a thing, and then the maid claims that it is true, because when everything does not go as she wants, she destroys everything around her. Another one of them claims that this is terrible. And this lady is the one who is supposed to take care of the empire, but she is leading it to destruction. He also tarnishes the dignity of the imperial family by filing for divorce. And was there really ever an emperor without an empress? And never, therefore, it only shows how callous the empress is. The girl also reads an article in the newspaper about how the emperor has recently been showering the empress with extravagant gifts in order to bring her back. And the girl claims that she is full of malice and envy. One of the maids claims that she is probably jealous because His Majesty is in love with Lady Lyra. At this time, the girl understands that everything has returned to normal, and all because her position is still not strengthened. Yuri promised to make her his lawful wife, so what's she doing now? The girl also recalls the aristocratic gossip that His Majesty's favor for his mistress seems to be waning, and apparently she has no intention of securing her place as his wife. At this time, someone else says who came and claims that they haven't seen each other for a long time, after which he asks how Her Highness is doing. The girl then asks if it's her father. The man claims he was waiting near the entrance, but she was gone for a while, so he decided to come in. He also hopes that everything is okay with her, to which the girl replies that, yes, everything is great. But then he asks if she is sure, after which he takes a strand of the girl's hair. and he claims that they say the Empress filed for divorce and returned to her dominions. Lyra claims that she will take care of everything that happens in the palace so that her father has nothing to worry about. But the man asks how he cannot worry since this issue concerns their entire family. After which he turns to his daughter again and asks what she is doing with that cute face. To remain simply a mistress in these difficult times, without the Empress. Therefore, she hesitates and loses the Emperor's favor, their family will end. He also releases the girl and states that in this case he expects good news from Her Highness. After which, the girl collapses on the floor and asks what she should do. Meanwhile, one of the maids tells her that Lady Lyra has only one exit, but she must do as she says, and the girl asks if she is ready for this. The maid also tells the lady not to worry because if she follows her words, she will be able to return the Emperor's heart and even the Empress Mother will be on her side. The lady will become the most important woman in the empire. Meanwhile, the main character asks her brother how much longer they have to go. The guy replies that just a little bit more, because they are almost there. And the main character thinks how many times she has already heard this. After which they pass near the burning lands, and the girl understands that she, of course, expected that the path to the mine would not be easy, but it is as if they are walking through the underworld. At this time, the young lady's brother asks what she will say and whether it is not fascinating, and then she replies, "Don't even say anything." Louise realizes that the two are walking around so calmly, as if it were no big deal. The young lady's brother asks if the girl knows their family has made a pact with the first elemental. The girl replies that yes, she read that their family received the title of Elemental Kings. The guy replies that this is precisely why their family's fire is so powerful, capable of consuming any other flame. He then asks if the girl knew there were two primordial elementals. Louise asks how that could be, if they were both primordial, to which the guy replies that there aren't any, and they weren't there originally. But the blonde compliments him, claiming that at the dawn of time, there were two of them, and these elementals appeared in the human world. One is a fire elemental, and the other an ice elemental. Louis then screams that he is actually talking about the main character and asks where the ice elemental is now. The guy replies that he disappeared, so only the fire elemental Videl is now known as the first. The main character wonders how he disappeared, and the young lady's brother asks if those two just ignored him, since he was the one who started the story. Then the young lady tells him to continue, and the guy offers to continue from where he left off. The young man claims that in the beginning there were two elementals. They lived in peace, each ruling their own part. But soon a conflict broke out between the two of them over people. The fire elemental was kind to people and wanted to help them, but the ice elemental hated humans and wanted to exterminate them. However, Videl chose the humans' side. Disappointed by this, the ice elemental hid herself. The main character is only interested in whether this man, with whom Videl made a deal, was also their ancestor. Her brother replies that it's true, because they made a contract, and that's why they took the name Videl, a fire elemental, the same as their family name. Well, then the main character wonders if the ice elemental should have a name. To which the guy replies, yes, and her name is Eldia, which means disaster. The main character wonders if that's really true. The young man replies that the real name of the ice elemental is Eldia, but over time she became known as a disaster. People were afraid that one day Eldia might return and destroy all of humanity. The main character thinks that she looks very angry, but for some reason she feels sorry for her. Well, talking about it now would be a little inappropriate, and yet it must have been excruciatingly painful to be abandoned by your only friend. She must have hidden away out of sheer sadness. Now the main character claims that since Videl is capable of burning everything, Eldia can also freeze everything around her. The guy replies that yes, he is interested in why the girl asks, to which she replies that if they fought, who would win? Louis insists it's a good question and he knew the girl would ask him, but he doesn't know what to answer. In any case, he insists it's all just legends, since Eldia has gone far and wide. And he's trying to convey how virtuous Videl is. Therefore, let the girl, like him, act proudly and confidently. Louise asks if he's trying to tell her that if she's doing something crazy, Tony should stop, and if she wants to turn everything upside down, she should just do it. The guy then replies that his little sister is a quick learner, after which he claims that they came to this place and the girl sees the entrance to the mine in front of her. When they go inside, the girl is surprised because she sees many magical stones. Her brother claims that everything she sees there is elemental crystals, so she should not touch them thoughtlessly, because each of them has certain properties depending on the color and light. He also takes one of them and suggests starting with something glowing, after which he tells the girl to take it in her hands. He also claims that elemental crystals choose their owner themselves, and if he understands that the girl is right for him, he will let her know. Louise asks how he will do this and will he suddenly catch fire, to which the guy replies that before she even has time to look back, he will already merge with her body. That's why he told her not to touch everything, because once she chooses an element, she won't be able to refuse. And since she's the heir of the Videl, her connection to crystals may be twice as strong as others. The Videl are connected to the element of fire, but you never know. A little while later, the girl asks if this is strange, and her brother, looking at all the crystals near her, says that this cannot be. Louise understands that quite a lot of time has passed, but there is absolutely no reaction to anything she touches, and shouldn't the main character have already acquired enormous strength? At this time, the blonde turns to her and says that maybe fire is simply incompatible with her. But the young lady's brother immediately snatches the crystal and screams that it can't be. After all, Louise is from the Videl family, so there should have been fire. So the blonde man wonders who said it had to be that way. She is also the first girl born in their family, so there may be exceptions. After this, the guy falls to the floor and says that if he hadn't answered, he would have wanted to burn mountains and fields with Louise. The main character then thinks that it's good that she didn't receive the power of fire, after which she turns to her brother and tells him not to be upset because there are still a lot of crystals there. Then the young man says that this is true, and it is difficult to guess the first time, because for some it can take months, and for others, even a lifetime. The girl then asks her brother how long he had been searching, to which he replies what he found right away. The guy connected with the first elemental he encountered when he first entered the mine. A short time later, the young man cries out, wondering what's going on and why nothing's working. He also asks if the fire elementals have completely lost their minds. How could they not recognize Louise Waddell? Have they all gone mad? At this time, the blonde suggests that they call it a day since the sun is already set, and the main character agrees and also tells the guy not to worry so much since they will be back tomorrow. The young man then agrees and says that the two of them should return, and he will obtain the elemental crystals and send them to the palace. A little while later, they are already riding in a carriage, and the girl claims that if he needed to work, he would have done better to do this, but he just hung around with her all day to no avail, so she thinks that her brother doesn't have his priorities straight. The blonde claims that he would also put her in first place over Louise, and the main character claims that they would have to solve one problem. The girl thinks that her brother, who is always following her, is not there now, and when they return home, she will not have a chance to talk to him, so she needs to clarify everything now. At this time, the guy asks if she wants to solve the problem, after which he takes her hand in his. He also wipes it and says she's dirty it. After that, the lady becomes embarrassed and the guy asks why she's so nervous. Louise realizes that if he wanted to wipe them, he could have just said so. So she turns to her interlocutor and asks if he's the moon. The guy then asks why he is the moon right away, and whether she is really giving him a nickname. But the girl wonders if he doesn't like it, because she thought that he liked the moon more than the sun, but apparently she was wrong. The guy smiles afterward and says the lady is right. After all, he loves her very much, and the girl understands that this was truly Louise's memory, and not a dream. After which, she also turns to the guy and claims that, frankly, she doesn't have many memories from her childhood. But as soon as she returned home, she began to remember something. The blonde then asks what she remembered about the girl, who replies that she remembered a sick child lying on a bed in a dark room, and the little girl was running around him, so the girl asks if he is that child. After which, the guy takes the lady's hand in his and says that then she remembers it too. Rian kisses the girl's hand and claims that he is talking about a promise to look only at him. The main character wonders if he's proposing to her, but at that very moment, the carriage shudders. The blonde then comes out and asks what's going on. One of the servants replies that they have a problem because there's a man in there. After which the main character looks at him and realizes that he looks familiar. And when he gets up, The girl says that this can't be and asks if it's really the Chancellor. The man simply addresses Her Majesty. Everyone is surprised, and the main character claims that she understands it's hard to believe, but it's Chancellor Filbert. At this time, the guy turns to His Majesty and asks how she is. But at that same moment, the guy sees a blonde man standing next to him and claims that it can't be him. However, the young man immediately grabs him by the shoulder, after which he seems to use force and the Chancellor is knocked out. The blonde man simply turns to the young lady and claims that it turns out the Chancellor is very tired and needs to be shown to a doctor, so he carefully leads him to the trunk. A little while later, the guy wakes up in bed, and the main character asks if the Chancellor is awake. At this point, the boy realizes that this is the voice of the Empress, who abandoned her to bureaucratic hell. The girl then says that he apparently hasn't fully recovered yet. The Chancellor then asks where he is, and the young lady asks where else if not at the Wadat estate, and has he really already forgotten how he fell in the middle of the street. The girl also claims that, frankly speaking, he doesn't really look like a man from the palace now and is wondering what happened. The man replies that he decided to resign and leave the palace because he, too, was tired of dragging everything onto himself. And on the street he fell from the fact that he had received an invitation from Louis and was already halfway there, but a little lost. The main character says that she wouldn't say it's a little, and asks if he has topographic cretinism, to which he replies that everything is fine with him. The Chancellor claims he spent almost his entire life confined to a small academy and a palace, and it's clear he doesn't know much about the area. The young lady notes that she too lived in the palace for 10 years. And yet, the man says it seems Her Majesty was having a good time there while he was busy with all the affairs at the palace. The girl replies that of course, after all, she's back home. And the guy then thanks her for the fact that the lady left him alone in the palace to work almost until he fell into eternal sleep, and never in his life had he had so much work, so he thought that he would kick the bucket right there. Louise thinks she really has fallen into an eternal sleep because of work. At that moment, a boy with blonde hair also enters the room. The Chancellor cries out that it's a ghost and he wasn't dreaming. Reen then asks if even men consider him such an unreal handsome man, after which the Chancellor is surprised, and the main character claims that he really is a handsome man. But calling him a ghost is a bit much, because he even got scared. The Chancellor asks what Her Majesty is talking about, and does she seriously not know him? Well, when he is about to say who this guy is, it's as if lightning strikes his port. The main character immediately asks the Chancellor what happened again, but he can't say anything. The blonde then claims that it turns out that the Chancellor is so tired that he has lost his power of speech, so the girl shouldn't worry, because this is a common thing, but Louise asks if he's serious, because this is the first time she's heard of such a thing. The blonde man claims that he will not be able to speak for a while and tells his lady to call the doctor, while he stays with the Chancellor for now. The main character then says, of course, and insists she'll be quick. But the Chancellor isn't thrilled with the idea of the lady leaving, after which the main character closes the door, and the blonde man claims that this is wonderful because now we can get down to business. At this time, Lyra walks in front of the Emperor's room in the palace, and also thinks about what she is doing and how she can do it. One of the servants at this time thinks that this is already annoying, because the girl has been hanging around there for 3 hours, and he is wondering what she is doing. Well, then one of the maids turns to the lady and suggests that she be bolder, because His Majesty will definitely understand her. Well, the girl says that if she does this, after which the maid claims that she told the lady not to worry, because she is the only one for His Majesty, and she's sure he'll be happy too. Lyra tells her to wait, but at that very moment, His Majesty opens the door. The girl immediately rejoices at Yuri. Well, then one of the aristocrats exclaims, "Is a man really going to the Vidal estate? And there's no need to do that. He knows what the Duke will do." However, the guy asks what he should do then, since Louise doesn't devote any time to him at all, and an eternity has passed since he sent her letters. And she doesn't even answer, so he needs to see her sometime and talk to her in person. After which the guy screams at them to stop, because he doesn't want to hear this anymore, and without Louise, nothing will work. The Empire, as well as the imperial family and even himself, are all in complete disarray, and if only he knew that something like this would happen, then he would pay more attention to her, but then He also asks why the hell he was constantly distracted by something. At this time, Lyra turns to Yuri and he asks what the girl is doing there. After all, he said that he was busy, but the lady replies that she just needs to tell him something. The guy then asks what she is talking about and claims that the girl could have sent someone for this, but she replies that it is very important. After which, she turns to Yuri and takes his hands. The guy asks what happened, after which the lady claims that they will have a child and the guy is shocked and asks what she is talking about. At this time, Reen frees the Chancellor's mouth from his powers and he claims that he is, in fact, Regan Klaus Owen. The guy then says that they haven't seen Rule for a long time, and he replies that, of course he did. Of course he wouldn't recognize this arrogant idiot. And he was alive. The Chancellor also wonders how he could have done this when he was alive and well all this time, and does he even know what he went through without him? The blonde then turns to Ruel, and he claims that he, in fact, bet his whole life on him. But he suddenly disappeared, and the guy asks if he knows how lonely he was. The blonde replies that he knows and that it must have been difficult, and the Chancellor claims that the prince is responsible for his life. Because of him, his body and mind are in complete disarray, and he must receive compensation for everything he's been through. The blonde then tells the Chancellor that it's his fault. But at that very moment, the main character, along with her brother and the doctor, pops into the room, claiming she came because she's worried about the Chancellor. Lewis asks what it means for the body and mind to be in disarray. The blonde at this time turns to his lady and claims that this is not what she thought, and also tells the Chancellor to leave him alone. But the girl turns around and states that she still thinks what she thinks, and then leaves the two alone. The blonde sighs and asks what to do now. After all, it was the Chancellor who had caused Louise to misunderstand everything. But Rule immediately cried out, asking if what was bothering him now was serious. After all, he's going crazy there because his undead friend is actually alive. The blonde then asks if he's really suggesting he fall into eternal sleep again. But the Chancellor tells him to think about what he's talking about. Rule also asks what the hell he was doing there all this time and how he survived the accident 10 years ago. But Reen tells Rule that it was not a simple accident, because someone was deliberately trying to put him into eternal sleep. On that day 10 years ago, the boy received a letter from his father, in which he wrote that he needed to talk to him one last time, so the prince urgently set off with several elite knights. But soon they were attacked, and there were a lot of mercenaries, so over time the situation began to turn against them. After they and the knights had used up all their strength, they used poison. The Chancellor wonders if this is really the case, after which he thinks that if this had been an attack aimed at the Crown Prince, they would have immediately plunged him into eternal sleep, but instead they used poison. Then the Chancellor asks His Majesty if he remembers what kind of poison it was. The guy replies that he has no idea, but something was wrong. His body simply went ice cold and his tongue went numb, making it difficult to speak. His body became as stiff as stone. He and all his knights were fully conscious, but none of them could move. They were grabbed and thrown into a carriage to be taken somewhere, but an accident occurred and the carriage fell off a cliff. Luckily, she fell near the Vidal estate. But the Chancellor then asks how the boy survived the fall, to which he replies that the mercenaries did a good job of wrapping his body. Although his body was paralyzed, his magic was still intact. That's why he suffered the least from the fall. The Chancellor then claims that the assassins knew who the boy was. He replies that yes, and they also knew about his ability. Rule claims that lightning is a rare ability even in Owen, and the guy had only just demonstrated his abilities back then, so few people knew he was capable of it. This means that his immersion into eternal sleep was beneficial to someone from the imperial family. The guy claims it's Empress Mother Marilyn Blige. He also thinks she's involved in all of this. At this time, the Chancellor asks if this is why he didn't return to the palace, and the blonde man replies that it was for this reason too. But the poison's effects were severe, and it was so potent that it took him a long time to neutralize it and recover. The Videlis hid him so he could lead a secretive life. And if the fact that he's alive is revealed, his assassin won't leave him alone. Well, then the Chancellor asks why the Waddells helped him, and what they'll gain from it. The blonde man claims the Duke plans to use him to force Louise to abdicate the throne. After which the Chancellor asks if the Duke really wants to make him emperor. The guy replies that, yes, even if there is a change of emperor, he will be able to get his daughter back. But then Rule claims that if this is a prince born from the Empress, then there should be no problems. The boy replies that yes, the nobles, and the fact that they're so concerned about the succession, they'll object. Especially if they know that Duke Fidel is behind the first prince's return. Rule asks if it means that the Duke has been planning to change the Emperor for the sake of his daughter for more than 10 years, to which he replies that one could say so. The Chancellor understands that this is a common occurrence for Fidel, and that everything does not look so bad, even though this is treason against the current crown. Yes, and we are talking about the return of the rightful prince to his throne, and of course all this is a number of personal interests, but in the eyes of others it will be fair. But then the Chancellor wonders why Regan agrees with the Duke's plans, knowing that he saved him in order to use him later. The guy replies that this is because he is also waiting for Louise's divorce. Even if he becomes emperor, he won't be able to marry a married woman. The guy also claims that he can certainly force her to marry him, but that would ruin Louise's reputation. He doesn't care about his reputation at all, but he doesn't want Louise to suffer in any way. The Chancellor then realizes that this guy had already planned everything for a long time. A little while later, the protagonist turns to Ruel and asks if he's hiding something from her, but he only exclaims that he knows nothing. Louise asks why he doesn't know, because he has been avoiding her gaze from the very beginning, and it's strange. After which the guy claims that he wouldn't dare, and wonders if Fidela even knows that this madman is hunting Louise, and how can Regan even dine so peacefully? After which he looks angrily at this guy, and the main character, seeing this, understands that she knew it all along. After all, there's something between these two. After which Louise turns to the Chancellor and insists that she honestly didn't mean to ask about this knife, and something is also happening between them. At that moment, the maid bursts into the room and addresses her lady. Louise asks what's going on, and if it's her ex-husband again. The girl then claims that they say that Lady Blair is pregnant by His Majesty, and they want the lady to return quickly for her coronation ceremony as a wife. After this, the main character thinks that this can't be happening. At that moment, the Emperor bursts into his mother's room. The woman then asks His Majesty what brought him there, to which he says that his mother shouldn't pretend that she doesn't know, because he's not in the mood right now. The Empress mother then asks if this is true, and states that she will then say this, and he asks how many times she told him that the Emperor shouldn't lose his composure. But the guy insists that she did send a letter to Louise. The woman replies that yes, and she sent it, after which the guy screams, asking what she was thinking. But she wonders what he's talking about. After all, there's nothing unusual about crowning a wife who will give birth to an heir to the throne, and the Empress is obliged to monitor such events, so it's obvious that she should have called her. Well, then the blonde guy screams, why did she send the letter on his behalf? After which, the woman asks if he is afraid that Louise will turn away from him completely. She also asks her son why he is so worried. And he didn't marry her out of great love. The guy claims that affection can develop over time, and the woman asks if he is talking about affection because it is funny. She also tells the guy not to worry, because she has thought of everything and cannot miss the opportunity that his mistress has given them. The Emperor then realizes that Lyra usually irritates her and wonders if something is wrong, after which he wonders what the hell his mother is up to. After all, if they send a letter to the Empress that she left because she wanted a divorce, the Empress claims it will make the girl relax and return. After receiving this letter, she will think that the guy has finally decided to give in after being refused a divorce. After which, the blonde asks if she says that the girl will return to finalize the divorce. The woman replies that yes, she will definitely fall for it, and all they can do is wait patiently. A little while later, one of the maids turns to the Empress mother and asks if she really thinks that the Empress will return. After all, they say the doctor who examined the lady is a close friend of Earl Blair, and she's curious whether the girl is truly pregnant. Afterwards, she apologizes to Her Majesty for what she said. Meanwhile, the main character insists that the letter must have been written by the Empress's mother. The young lady's father, however, loses all restraint and burns the letter. Louise replies that, of course, since she would hardly have participated in Lyra's pregnancy, and she must have thought that, having received the letter, she would run to the Empress to demand a divorce. and considering that she had previously intercepted her letters, it was most likely her doing. Then the young lady's brother argues that she shouldn't go, but rather just ignore it. But the girl replies no, and she'll go. Louis asks if she knows it's a trap and still plans to go. Louise replies that sooner or later she would have to deal with this issue anyway, but she can't just sit around like that forever. The girl understands that the longer this continues, the worse it will be for her, because due to the Empress's absence, chaos will begin in the palace, which will soon affect the lives of the townspeople. And when that happens, they will blame her for abandoning the empire and leaving. Moreover, Lyra's pregnancy is so untimely, since it was originally assumed that the girl would become pregnant after Louise's coming-of-age ceremony. But there are still 2 months left so everything is happening too fast, and this is very different from the original story, so the pregnancy may be worthwhile somewhere. Well, if Lyra isn't lying, it could hinder her plans. The protagonist then insists she'd better hurry, but her father replies that he won't allow it and that he's too worried, because they're finally together. The protagonist then places her hand on her father's and tells him not to worry, because she's not alone anymore, and she's not the same Louise she was before. The man nearly cries afterward, saying his daughter is so charming. Louise thinks it's such a relief to see her father hasn't changed, but Reen claims that he cannot send the girl alone to such a dangerous place. But when he is about to say that he will go with her, the young lady's father immediately asserts that he will not go. Her brother and the Chancellor also support this idea. Louis insists he'll go, but his father replies he won't either. The boy asks why not, and the man asks if he has already forgotten how he threatened the emperor the last time he went to the palace. And in the end, as a father, he worries about his daughter, but then the Chancellor and the Duke's son says that he can't answer exactly how the Duke can go to the palace if it's not even the day of some event. After which they all sigh heavily. Someone else says that there is one last option left, after which they all stare at the Chancellor. But he asks what they are talking about, since he is not going, and it seems that someone has forgotten that he just resigned and left the palace. The main character then says that she has an idea and asks about getting a job there again. A little while later, the blonde guy claims he doesn't like it. A few hours earlier, the Chancellor was shouting at her, "Do you really have to become a lover, and that will only happen over his dead body?" Louis then asked what he was doing, and then he'd probably have to go into eternal sleep, since they couldn't send Louise alone. He was truly ungrateful. After all, did he know there were people who dreamed of being in his place? The Chancellor then cried out that they were all crazy and he wouldn't do it. But then the young lady's brother took his finger and stamped it. The main character understood how hard life was for them. A little while later, the blonde guy says that she didn't even accept his application, and the girl replies that it's very important, and if it weren't so, she wouldn't really want to make such a scene in front of the Chancellor either. Reen asks if this is true, and the girl replies that she and the Chancellor are completely different. For example, she doesn't like the way he boasts about being a genius, and the way he constantly grumbles, after which the blonde guy smiles, and the main character stops and wonders if she's really trying to console him. And it's probably all because of that dream, because after it wasn't his, she's strangely worried about that guy. Reen then asks the girl who she'll choose. The main character is a little surprised and turns to him. The guy insists that if she had to choose between the two, who would she choose? The main character replies that, of course, Mr. Moon, but then she stops and looks at the guy, who's smiling. He also says that's fine, and then he'll leave everything as is. After which, the young lady tells him to go back already, because they're probably ready by now. The girl also understands that, although it won't be for long, they will be far from each other, but even if it won't be for long, it's still sad that he can't go with her. The Chancellor at this time cries out to Her Majesty that it is not too late, and if she changes this stupid decision. The head maid says that Monsieur Ruel is being so loud and pushes him into the carriage, but he cries out that he can't believe he's her lover and that it's so humiliating. At this time, the main character turns to the blonde man and asks what it was, after which he asks what she is talking about. The girl claims that when the Chancellor returned, the two of them held each other and shouted that they were taking responsibility. Reen claims that, frankly speaking, this is all a misunderstanding because there is someone he has liked for a long time, although it is a long-standing and unrequited love. The main character then says that she knows, and the guy asks if that is really true, after which the lady falls silent. The head maid at this time tells her lady that they are loaded and will be leaving soon, so let her get into the carriage. The girl agrees and heads towards the carriage, but the blonde grabs her hand and asks what she knows. Louise thinks how she can not know this when everything is so obvious, and of course after that dream she was already sure that maybe he had feelings for Louise ever since then, and maybe she had feelings for him too. But, unfortunately, she is not Louise, and when life is at stake, she has no time at all for personal feelings and she already has too many problems. After which the lady claims that she was joking, and that she actually has no idea, but the guy claims that he thinks she still knows, to which she replies that she really doesn't know. And the blonde guy just laughs after that, and also says that it's good that there's still time. If he wanted to give up so easily, he wouldn't have gone so far and would let her go for now. But he still tells the lady to think about this issue before their meeting, because he doesn't want to do something. What might his lady dislike? After which he kisses her hand. The maid turns to her lady, and then she takes her hand from the boy and screams that she's already running. Then the girl gets into the carriage, and her brother and father approach her. The protagonist bids them farewell and claims she'll be back soon. Her father then says that's fine and tells Louise to be careful. Her brother also tells her not to try to solve everything on her own. The Chancellor then says that they are not parting forever and will all meet at the palace in a week, so the Duke and Louis are exaggerating. The main character wonders what he's talking about and whether they'll really meet in a week. To which the Chancellor asks if she hasn't heard about the fact that Videl was also invited to the coronation ceremony, and this is obvious since it is such an important royal ceremony. After this, the main character remembers what the blonde man told her and understands that it means she has little time. At this moment, Lyra is sitting by the mirror, being primped by her maid. Then the girl remembers Yuri, and he understands that when she told him about her pregnancy, he was not surprised, but worried. At this time, someone knocks on Lady Lyra's room and then tells her to take a look. When the girl comes out, she sees a lot of gifts there and asks what they are, and the maid replies that these gifts were sent to her. Lyra asks if that's really true. The maid replies that the nobles sent it to her as a congratulatory message on her coronation, and there are even more of them outside. They started sending them when His Majesty announced his pregnancy, after which one of them claims that there is no point in trying to befriend the lady now. At this time, another maid approaches Lyra, and the girl asks what is going on, and also whether Yuri is, by any chance, looking for her. But the maid replies that no, and that is not what she is talking about, because the Empress Mother is calling the lady to her. A little while later, the girl is already sitting next to the Empress, and she says that it seems the lady does not like the tea and can order something else to be brought. Lyra replies that it's not worth it and thanks her for the tea. The woman claims that this tea helps during pregnancy and that she also drank it while carrying Yuri. After which the lady thanks her for her concern, and the woman claims that it's nothing special, because they will soon become a family. Lyra is surprised by this, and the woman asks what it is, since in the end she will become the emperor's wife. The brunette also claims that she was a little harsh with her, and understands that the lady is a little awkward in her presence, to which the girl replies that this is not the case. But the Empress insists that nothing happened, and that it was her fault, after which she now suggests that they become closer. She also claims the girl is very valuable since she's carrying her son's child. Lyra then joyfully addresses Her Majesty, but then a maid enters Her Majesty's room and claims the Empress has arrived at the palace. The woman then asks if Louise is there, and Lyra asks if the Empress has arrived. The brunette replies that, of course, she must conduct their wedding. All important royal events are the Empress's responsibility. Lyra should go with them, as they still need to meet the Empress. Lyra then says she's glad. The woman then insists that she should explain to the Emperor's future wife that, although the Empress is younger than her, she is still the most important member of the imperial family. Therefore, the girl must worship and follow her. Lyra then says that yes, she will remember this. After which, the woman suggests going, and also claims that she hasn't seen Louise for a long time, so she needs to make amends. Well, then the maid turns to Her Majesty and insists that it is still worth being on guard, because the Empress is no longer the young girl they knew and she has become completely fearless. The woman then claims that the maid is exaggerating, and she says that there's no need to worry because she does not know how much this girl apologized, but this is because she was far from the palace. But now everything is different because she is there, and that girl trembled in front of her for the last 10 years, so probably a lot of people thought of themselves while she was absent for so long, so they will see if she can behave the same way now. Well, when the woman approaches the main character, she only says with a smile on her face how many years and winters there are, and she missed her mother, the Empress, so much. The woman is shocked by this, after which everyone around falls silent, and the main character wonders if she did something wrong, and she thought that Louise had a warm relationship with her mother, the Empress. She also thought that they were close, like mother and daughter, but apparently not, after which the girl apologizes and claims that she is just so excited from seeing her after so much time. The woman then says that this is how she thanks Louise, and also states that she is glad that she has returned and also wants to apologize. After all, she heard that Yuri had been bothering her while she was gone. The protagonist wonders if she's really telling her this now. After which, she tells the woman that this is true, and if she were there she would punish him. To which the Empress mother replies that of course, because she is always on Louise's side. And the girl then asks if she will be on her side this time too, and after that the woman just smiles nervously. And the young lady claims that she believes that the lady will definitely help her, after which the woman looks at the servants. And then he even suggests that they first go into the house and talk there, because the girl must be tired after such a long trip, so she asks, how about taking a break from everything and having a heart-to-heart talk? Louise realizes that she knew the letter was just bait, and she does not intend to give her a divorce, after which the girl says that she does not mind. She also turns to Lady Blair and claims that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and also asking whether it is worth calling her Empress already, because she heard the news. Therefore, he offers his congratulations, because this is a great success for the Empire. The brunette then says how wonderful it is, and she can see that they get along so well, so she hopes that they will continue to support each other. The main character claims that very soon they will become strangers to each other, so what's the point of thinking about it now? The woman is shocked after this, and the main character claims that she almost forgot because she wanted to introduce someone to them. After which she asks why he doesn't get out. After which the guy gets out of the carriage, and people, seeing him, ask if this is really the Chancellor. One of the aristocrats then asks why the Chancellor is with the Empress, and another one wonders if the Empress persuaded him to return to them to help solve all the problems with that escape. After this, the main character thinks how they were dreaming and takes the guy by the arm. She also asks to be introduced, as this is one of her lovers, the one she'd already told me about and whom she wanted to bring to the palace. Of course, they all know his name. The girl asks if she should tell him how they met. The Empress is shocked, and the main character thinks how good it is that she chose Rule, because if it had been some ordinary man, then the Empress mother or someone else could have intervened. Well, they can't put such an important person for the Empire into eternal sleep. A short time later, the guy claims that he has never experienced such humiliation in his life and would rather fall into eternal sleep. The main character then asks the maids if they heard that this guy loves her so much that he is ready to plunge into eternal sleep. At this time, one of them turns to Her Majesty and claims that she must say that he will supposedly really now plunge into eternal sleep. The main character then says that in one or more cases, no joke, they are right, and it's all just a disguise. Then one of the maids says that she knew it, and the lady really surprised her, because for a second she even thought that she had gone crazy. At this time, Louise is thinking that she cannot believe that the maids treat the genius of the Empire this way, and the guy is wondering if he really has to be there. Louise replies that, of course, they are lovers, so where else would he be, and let him not worry, because she won't lay a finger on him. The Chancellor then cries out whether she will lay a finger on him, and he never thought about it. After this, the young lady thinks that he really has always been alone, and even feels a little sorry that he is so embarrassed to be someone's lover, considering that he had no one before her. The guy then says that, okay, let the lady forget, because anyway, he will only have to endure all this for a week. After this, the main character thinks that in a week, everyone will come to the capital, including Mr. Moon. She thought she finally had enough time to think, but she only had a week, and that was so little. The Chancellor, meanwhile, exclaims, "Isn't this enough? Is this taking too long?" He wishes this week would pass quickly. The girl then suggests he tell him what interesting things have happened recently. One of the maids says that if the lady only knew. It was absolutely horrific what happened when the news of Lady Blair's pregnancy spread. Another maid replies that it was after that her maids became so arrogant, and so they turned up their noses as if they were servants at a flower palace. The main character then says that this is good news after all, because the emperor must be overjoyed. One of the maids at this time claims that this was strange after he found out about the pregnancy. He never visited his wife's palace, which surprises the main character. Another maid replies that it's not just that. After all, she doesn't think he ever invited her. But the Empress mother did meet with her. The main character then says that he is probably busy because she left and the Chancellor too, and in general all the workers left, so she is sure that he has been overwhelmed with work. So there must have been no time to visit. But at that very moment, one of the maids burst into the room and spoke to Her Majesty. What is the Emperor there? After which the girl screams that she thought he was busy. A little while later, the guy approaches the young lady and addresses her. Louise says they haven't seen each other in a while and asks how he chewed, which surprises the guy. And the main character claims that it doesn't seem like everything was great for him and asks what brought him there. The guy then asks what she's talking about, since he came as soon as he found out about her return. Well, he still asks if it's true that she returned with the Chancellor. He also wonders what is going on, and the girl asks what he is talking about, because you can never say what can happen between a man and a woman. So it just happened, and they developed feelings for each other very recently, and they met in and through her family. The girl also says that the Emperor can also be congratulated on the fact that he will soon become a father. After all, what could be better than having a child from a loved one? At this point, the Chancellor whispers to the young lady why His Majesty is acting so strangely and why he looks so ill. The girl asks how she should know. The main character recalls how the maid claimed that after he found out about the pregnancy, he never visited his wife's palace. And besides, they say that he never leaves his office, after which the main character asks if something is wrong. After this, the guy gets down on his knees, and the main character asks what he's doing. The Emperor then asks Louise to listen to him, and the girl asks if he wants her to listen to him. After all, if this is about divorce, then she has already said several times that she does not intend to stay with him. But the blonde replies that no, and it's not about that at all, because he really doesn't know what to do with this, and he's also going crazy, but she's the only one he can talk to now. The girl then claims that she is ready to listen to him, but wonders whether it is necessary to speak in this situation, since this is already too much. After which she turns to the servants and tells them to disperse, and rule too. But the boy then says no way. He also claims that he is strictly forbidden to leave her alone with the Emperor. The girl claims this is quite clever and asks who ordered this, and whether it was her father or her brother. To which the guy replies that there is someone crazier than these two, so he asks to save his life and cancel the order. But the girl claims that she should at least listen to him. So let the guy move away at least a little. A little while later, they are already sitting at the table with the Emperor. The girl then tells him to tell her what's going on. And is it really because he is about to become a father and is worried about what is happening? The blonde replies that it's not quite right, because some things don't add up, after which the main character wonders if this scoundrel really regrets it now. His Majesty exclaims that he doesn't, and that it's strange that Lyra is pregnant. The girl then asks what he's talking about, after which the Emperor claims he's taking medication. Louise asks what the hell he's talking about, and he asks if she doesn't understand, since he's been taking medication for a long time that prevents him from having children. The girl asks why he does this, and certainly not because of guilt or respect for her. The guy then says that it is not because of her, and the young lady claims that she appreciates his honesty, and if he said that it was for her, she would have kicked his ass. The blonde then claims that he never wanted to have children with Lyra, after which the main character claims that she calculated that he was head over heels in love with her. But Yuri claims that he did not want his child to be from a concubine, because he knows very well how depressing such a life is. And he didn't want such a life for his child. The girl understands that, in short, Yuri could not become emperor. He was lucky enough to gain the throne thanks to the tragedy of the first prince, and many nobles still dislike him. Because he's a child concubine, the guy claims that he took the drugs and did not want to create problems at least until her coming-of-age ceremony. The main character then says that at least he was polite to her. But then she tells him to forget it and asks if he did it for himself. The girl understands that she thought he was completely brainless, but it turns out he does have something. That's why, in the original, Lyra became pregnant after Louise's coming-of-age ceremony. They planned to use it to keep the Empress locked up. It was not important at all that the child was from a concubine, but then the girl thinks how one can explain the girl's current pregnancy. After which the main character states that she is sorry to make such a proposal, but they need to be sure. She also says that there is a possibility that the lady is pregnant by another man, but the guy replies that she never left the palace. Louise claims that she does not want to argue, and asks if he sees what kind of relationship he has with the Chancellor. The guy only gets angry after this, and the girl understands that it may seem that the lock is closed, but the palace has its own little world, and in other words, anything can happen there. The guy then claims that he still doesn't think so, and the main character says that's good, so then it all comes down to the fact that Lady Blair is lying, and she doesn't know that he's taking drugs. The guy then claims that it is because he never told anyone about it, and the girl claims that it is true because he could not tell anyone. Then the Empress mother doesn't know about this, but the young man claims that everything is not so, and his mother knows everything. The main character is shocked after this and claims that this can't be, but the guy claims that it can. After all, it was his mother who suggested he start taking medication. A little while later, the main character is walking through the garden, thinking how tired she is. But it seems the situation has only become more complicated, and everything would have been simpler if the Mother Empress and Lyra had not carried out this whole scam just to provoke her. Well, what if the Mother Empress knows that Lyra is lying but keeps silent in order to sabotage her divorce, and for her this will be the worst-case scenario? And if the girl's false pregnancy and her ascension to the status of Empress fail, then this will be the end of her beautiful exit. Louise knows she must prevent this at all costs. But then, someone greets Her Majesty. The protagonist realizes she should have simply stayed in the palace and listened to rule. She also tells Lady Blair that they haven't seen each other in a while. And even though they'd only said hello a couple of days ago, Lyra then said she wasn't sure if she should ask such a thing. Well, she wonders why the Empress has returned. She also says that the lady shouldn't misunderstand her, as she's simply confused, and wonders if she wasn't planning to divorce Yuri. Louise replies that she would be very happy, but her lover does not allow her. One of the maids then apologizes to Her Majesty, but insists that she is Lady Blair. This means that Blair's wife will soon become a member of the imperial family, and Her Majesty should address her with due respect. After all, as she knows, Lady Blair is currently one of the main character's maids wants to say something after this. Well, the main character suggests that she not make trouble and go back because she is so tired. Well, when the main character leaves, she pays attention to the girl and thinks that it's all just a pretense. After which she finally turns to Lady Blair and claims that she will soon become Empress and she will address her accordingly. The girl then tells Her Majesty that it is good, and the main character at this time advises her to stop. Lyra is surprised by this and asks what she's talking about. One of the maids, taking the time to address Her Majesty, claims that such words could lead to misunderstanding, but the girl replies that there is no misunderstanding. And he asks his wife if she is wrong, to which the girl replies that she does not understand what she is talking about. The main character then says that nothing can be done if she continues to pretend to be ignorant. But still, let her remember one thing, because if she decides to move on, she may never return. Lyra then tells Her Majesty that she does not understand what she is talking about, and asks if she really envies her. The main character then asks if she seriously thinks so, to which the girl replies that if not this, then what? Louise thinks she feels sorry for the girl being so desperate as to come up with such a thing, so she gives her some advice, even though it could jeopardize her divorce. The main character also says that since the girl thinks so, she has no choice and she warned her, so let her take care of herself. But as the girl moves on, someone else addresses her, and the main character wonders how much longer this can go on, and who else is there. It turns out that this is the same maid who stole the letters, and the girl says that the man who should be in prison is calmly walking around the city. The maid claims that it was thanks to the Empress's mother that she returned. The protagonist then says that she'll be leaving soon, so she won't cause any problems, but she'd prefer not to see this woman again. The maid claims that she will take care of this future, but now she must tell the lady something important, and the main character asks what, to which she replies that the Empress is her mother and is looking for her. She also wants to meet her in that room tomorrow. The girl remembers how the letter said that she hoped Louise hadn't forgotten about Tommy's place. After which the maid tells Her Majesty that they will see each other tomorrow. A short time later, the protagonist comes to the Empress, and she gets up from her chair and says that the girl has arrived. But she was already worried that she would not come. Well, the main character is wondering why the Empress mother called her. The woman then says that ever since the lady left the palace, she has been calling her in case she had already forgotten this place. But the girl replies that this cannot be, and that she will probably remember him until her death. The woman then asks if this is true, and she didn't know that the girl loves the palace so much, after which the maid opens the door to the secret room. The Empress then asks how much time has passed, and she hopes that the lady missed this place. But they have so many memories from there, so she asks her to come in. When the main character looks at this terrible place and is surprised, and the woman asks what she is worth, let her sit down. After which the maids force her to sit down on a chair, after which the woman tells her to pick up a pen, as she'll have a lot of writing to do. They'll start with the smallest thing, and that's that in the future the girl will never disobey her mother, the Empress. They'll write this 1,000 times. The main character then asks what she's talking about, and the woman then hits her with a pointer. He also claims that the girl has become so bold since their last meeting, after all the love she gave her. And it seems that Videl had a bad influence on her. But let the girl not worry, because if she receives proper upbringing again, she will become as obedient as before. A little while later, the young lady's entire arm is already wounded, and the Empress asks if she is not screaming yet, since she should already be begging for mercy. Louise wonders if the lady preferred her to scream, and she sees that she enjoys it. The girl claims that she is in pain, but she is usually quite patient, and if she is in pain, then it was much more painful for young Louise. The girl realizes that even in her real world, she's never been beaten like this. And as if the exhaustion weren't enough, this girl had to endure such pain. Louise was forcibly separated from her family and locked in the palace. The unfortunate Empress was hounded by her husband and literally worked herself to death. She was also bullied by the Empress's mother, so she was out of her mind. Louise claims that if the lady hits her like that, there will be scars left, and what does she think will happen if she shows them? Well, the woman tells her not to worry about it, because the healer, as always, is already waiting outside and no one will believe her even then. They say that Louise has changed, but it's really strange because she acts as if she's there for the first time. After which the woman claims she's not Louise. The protagonist then asks what that means, and the Empress mother screams at her to stop pretending, because if the girl were really Louise, Tony would behave like this. And of course, she knew something was wrong. However, the main character laughs afterward, and the woman cries out that it's truly impossible for her to be Louise. The girl then apologizes, but claims that it is really very funny, because the lady says so. It's as if there's a foreign soul in her body, after which the girl starts laughing out loud. The woman screams, how dare she, and does she really think that she can deceive her, but the main character asks what she is talking about, because if the Empress mother said so, then it is so. After all, these are the words of the Great Mother Empress, and how could this not be true? The main character then says that she is indeed a lawyer, but to be honest, she is not Louise. One day, I just woke up and found myself in this body. The girl also asks if this is interesting, after which the woman gets angry. And the young lady thinks that yes, it must be really hard to believe her words, and she never thought that she would tell everything like this. This is the pure truth, but no one will believe it, after which one of the maids turns to Her Majesty. But she screams at them to be quiet and wonders why they are looking at her like that, and also thinks that she has completely lost her mind. One of the maids at this time suggests that they calm down, because now is not the time and they need to finish educating the Empress today. Another maid replies that it is true, and they never thought that there was anything wrong with the lady, because if anyone went crazy, it was obviously the Empress. The main character then rises from her seat and says that yes, they are right, and also asks if they haven't heard rumors that the Empress has gone mad. But she thought that everyone already knew this, but these are not rumors at all, because she really did go crazy, after which the main character opens the curtains in the window. And he opens it, The woman then asks Louise what she's doing, and the girl just smiles. She also claims that everyone would probably be extremely surprised to learn that the Empress's mother abused the Empress. Well, the woman then asks what she is talking about, and does she really think that someone will hear her screams, even if someone does hear. The girl replies that the lady is right, because if she calls someone now, nothing will come of it, because the spring ones will heal her until they arrive. And since this is the Empress Mother's palace, they won't be able to simply enter. Well, the girl claims that the more she thinks about it, the more foolish this plan seems, so she decided that she could cheat, after which the woman asked what she was talking about. And the young lady claims that it was not in vain that she prepared herself, just in case she jumped from there right now. Then the Empress would find herself in a rather difficult situation, and then the girl jumps, after which everything falls into the water. The Chancellor then cries out to Her Majesty. The Empress, shocked, asks why the Chancellor is there. The main character is underwater at the time, and she thinks why everything is turning out this way? Because she prepared witnesses in advance, so that when she falls into the lake they would rush to save her. And she would, with tears in her eyes, reveal all the atrocities of the Empress's mother. But she still didn't think about the fact that her clothes were too heavy, and to think that she drowned to avoid falling into eternal sleep at work. The girl also thinks about how much she hasn't done yet. For example, falling in love, or having her first kiss. But she doesn't even know this guy's real name, so she's wondering what his name is.